God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. At this time, is there any questions from council about the agenda as it's currently posted?
No.
Okay, with no questions from the council, looking for a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
Motions in first and second. Can we get a roll call at this time?
Counselor Pankratz? Aye. Counselor Duffloff?
Aye.
Counselor Katie McMillan?
Aye.
Counselor Smith?
Aye.
Counselor Dennis McMillan?
Aye.
Counselor McLean?
Aye.
Motion has it. Moving on now to our public comment period this evening. First off, I want to welcome everyone for joining us this evening, and I'm really looking forward to hearing conversations from the public to the staff. We're really putting this on because we've been getting a lot more questions than we normally do, and we're really looking forward to getting individual questions from citizens and allowing staff the opportunity to answer those questions in a more succinct manner than what we're used to. So we're really excited about that, and hopefully we can get more conversations happening and clarifying some of the questions you guys have as citizens. So we appreciate you guys being out this evening. I've got a small script here to read real quick just about some general rules, and then we'll talk more about it in just a second. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate all of you taking the time to participate in this evening's town hall. Our goal is to have an open, respectful, and productive conversation about issues that matter to our community. To help make sure that everyone has the opportunity to participate, we'd ask that everyone please follow a few simple rules. Please be respectful of one another, even when you disagree. Allow one person to speak at a time as called upon by me, the mayor, and please avoid interruptions. Keep comments concise so everyone who wishes to speak has an opportunity. We may limit individual comments to about 3 to 5 minutes if needed. While we anticipate being able to answer many questions tonight, some may require additional research to follow up on after the meeting. Staff will organize those questions and include their answers in a follow-up memo to the council to be presented during the city manager's report at the council meeting on August 4th, 2026. As a reminder, all participants tonight, that this is an opportunity for the community members to share their opinions, raise concerns, ask questions, and provide information directly to City Council. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and I, the mayor, will call upon you. Staff will provide you with a microphone. Please begin by stating your name and address prior to providing your comment or questions. All speakers will be given the opportunity to speak, and time limits may be necessary as directed by the mayor. Tonight's meeting is a maximum of 3 hours. Please note, comments criticizing city programs and operations are permitted during this segment. However, criticism of individual city employees is not allowed during the public comment period. Concerns regarding city employees should be submitted in writing to the city human resource manager for proper review. We appreciate your cooperation and look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you for helping us make this a positive and productive conversation. Okay. So the way that I'd like to run it this evening is if you would like to speak and you have one individual question, we're going to try to go around the room as much as possible, ask your question, and then allow staff to answer it. If you have another question or a follow-up question, we need to kind of wait your turn to kind of go around the room, making sure that everyone here has an opportunity to speak. And then once everyone's kind of filtered through, you can ask a second question or a follow-up question to your previous question. Any questions on that? Okay. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll go ahead and get started. Any brave souls? Okay. Ms. Tess White.
The legal name is Teresa Snyder, 176 Rio Senda Street, 176 Rio Senda Street. Hold on, need my glasses, I'm old. So my questions, I'm basically asking for more information and clarification. My first one is the city part of the Eastern Oregon Water Settlement? On the subject of water, where is the city drinking water being sourced from? Is that water supply at risk of running too low to serve the community? What other resources are you considering, if any? I would add that at my 50-year class reunion, it was shocking, came from Pendleton, Oregon. It was shocking to see how many classmates had died from rare forms of cancer. And we are all considered downwinders of Hanford growing up during the time of the discovery of the contamination. I have no desire to drink water from the Columbia River ever.
Thank you. Staff, who would like to take this one on? First question is water sources.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to. Is that working?
No.
Okay, just a moment.
Weird.
Maybe it only works. As it was working a minute ago. How about that? Is that working better?
Great, thank
Much
you.
better.
All right, very good. I'll try to, I know there was a series there, but I'll try to answer as many as I can quickly. The first question was the Eastern Oregon water settlement. You're talking about the 20.5 million approximately from Amazon. So the city of Umatilla is not a registered party of that settlement. However, they sent out a notification. It's anybody that lives in the La Guama area. So that could be us, but we don't hit their qualification checkpoint. So the qualifications had to be either a private well that was essentially shallow. I'm paraphrasing here. That's not in the lower basalt area of the aquifer, and also has had a recent test that has tested positive at an unsafe level of nitrates. So the city has 4 wells throughout the city. All of our wells are pretty deep. They range anywhere between 500 and 1,500 feet deep. We're significantly below any of those sort of shallow wells that are there. If you go to, it is called yourwater.oregon.gov. That's the state website for all of our tests run onto our published. Every time a test is there is published onto that website. And Leon Schill is there. We're all underneath his license. And it has our well logs. So we have a golf course well, we have a well up in McNary, we have a golf downtown, well downtown. You can click on, if you type in Umatilla City of, every test that the city has had, I think it's either a 20 or a 25-year history you can go back to. And if you want longer than that, you can request those from the state. They have that. Specifically on nitrates, when you look up on nitrates of the last 20 years, the majority of those test results are ND, which is non-detectable. I think there were 4 instances in the last 20 years where we've had something that was not ND, and it was something like they ranged from 0.2 to 1 parts per million. The EPA and the DEQ maximum allowed limit is 10 parts per million. So we've been anywhere between 2% to 10% on those 4 instances over 20 years. Otherwise, it's been non-detectable. Did I answer that part of your question enough there? Okay. And then just the quick follow-up question that came with that, I believe, was where's it being sourced from? So at the moment, our water is being sourced from those 4 wells that are here. Our water master plan, which was adopted in, I believe it was August of 22, it has us transitioning from groundwater to Columbia River water by 2037. We have the state also tests the Columbia River here for radionuclides, and we have those test results as well. And over the past decade here in the region here for radionuclides, there have not been any tests that have registered for any unsafe levels of radionuclides. That's also on the state website that's there. We can, for anyone that's here, when I publish that memo on the 4th, I'll have the link on that on August 4th for you. So it's published, anyone can go and find that in case you don't have the information here available as well.
Dave, I have a
Yes.
question, follow up. If we were to source water from the Columbia River, obviously, will we have to build a specific water treatment source for that? Or will we use the current water treatment system we have now?
Yeah, so you will get in your city council packet next week. We went out to bid to build our new point of diversion on the Columbia River, or POD for short. For lack of a better phrase, that's our straw in the river where we can draw water from the Columbia River. The city has a roughly 30 CFS or cubic feet per second water right on the Columbia River that we haven't used. That water now pumps into a new approximately $120 million facility that has been built entirely by Amazon. That property will, within the next 2 years, the goal is to transfer that into public ownership of the city. When they built that facility, they had the initial construction included skids for the industrial use, which was their use, but stubbed for potable use. The city's need in that first round was approximately 7.5 CFS, which is about 4.5 to 5 million gallons of water a day. Citywide, in the peak of summer use right now, the city will use about 2 million gallons of water a day. So it's more than double our annual use citywide. That is an entirely different filtration system. So right now we do the water that comes out of the aquifer is very little treatment. It's mostly just chlorinated as it comes through. Of course, it's tested all along the way, and if it requires any additional treatment, we'll do a chemical treatment for that. But for the most part, it's chlorine. This system would be an ultrafiltration system, which is different. So it skids and membranes and runs through that, and it gets tested on the way in as well. So it'll test for TSS, total suspended solids. It'll test for other chemical makeup. The Columbia River has naturally occurring nitrates in the river. It is at a very low level. It's, again, below 1 part per million. And so it's still at that roughly 2 to 5%, which in the rare instances that we've had a result, it does occur naturally there. And again, we'd be able to filter out. If there were something like radionuclides or other things in there, we would look to try to develop the treatment that we would need to have for that. But right now we don't have that in there. What we have, the bigger risk that was identified by our engineers was blue-green algae. And that's been on the rise, particularly up in the Pasco area over the last 5 years or so. And so the system that's been built there, the treatment system there has been constructed to be able to treat for algae blooms if those come.
That's the same treatment system that we toured this year, right?
Correct.
And that's the same basic as upstream that Pasco and Tri-Cities, I believe, are using too.
West Richlands.
West
and
Richlands,
it has
yeah.
some systems that are similar to Pasco, but it's what West Richlands newly developed. Like.
I just wanted to get my brain right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Stockdale. Any, guess now further questions from citizens at this time?
Oh.
Right there.
All right.
Oh.
We'll
I
get
guess
your
I was-
microphone so we can get you on there.
It's behind you. It's right
in front of you there, Troy.
Just make sure you state your name and address, please.
Troy Lindstrom, 401 6th Street, manager, Lamplighter Motel. What about total dissolved solids and fluoride?
Yeah, so
Thanks, sir.
I'll start with the existing conditions of TDS or total dissolved solids and fluoride in our well systems now. The city does not inject fluoride into our water. It occurs naturally. And so the fluoride levels that are in our wells now is what's just there. The last couple years, it has been trending slightly higher. And so when we hit, and I don't have the threshold right in front of you, but when we hit that health level threshold, we do send out mailings and notifications. Many of you, all of you should have received those in each of the last years, where it'll say something to the extent that we've detected that it's slightly above these levels. If you are pregnant or nursing, we encourage you to not drink it. But anybody else that's not pregnant or nursing, it's still at a considerable safe level to consume. So those are all based upon the state's OWRD, Oregon Water Resource Department, Oregon Health Authority, and DEQ's levels. So we quite literally carbon copy what their language says at those levels and put that into that notice so that we meet those notification requirements. I'd have to double check for sure. This is a little anecdotal, but in the last 7 years, I think we've sent that notification out 2 or 3 times. And I think it's been the last 2 years in a row. And so that's out there. Each year on our website, we publish our annual water health report. If you go onto our website, you can go on the Public Works and you click on water, you can see our water report. It'll have the information in there specific to the fluorides. On TDS, we do have the ability to filter out dissolved solids that are there. But again, where our wells are located in our depths, we don't really have a TDS or a TSS or total suspended solids issues with our wells. We're actually quite lucky here in Umatilla. It's a very different, even though we're in the basin, we really only have 2 hot spots, and that's where our Power City and Brownell projects are serving right now. Those two hotspots, which are technically sort of donut holes, are not really in city limits. They're in the urban growth boundary, but cities all around it. Those areas there don't have any city services. They're two of the smallest water districts in the state. They're official certified districts, and they have shallow wells. They have high detections of nitrates, TDS, TSS, and other things that have not been deemed safe to consume, as well as just simply drying out. This time each year for the last several years, the city has delivered about 500,000 gallons of water every year for the last 5 years to those areas so that they have something to drink and flush their toilets and things like that. So at the moment, we don't have any of that in our wells.
Thank you.
Hey, Dave, the groundwater, also correct me if I'm wrong though, but the type of fluoride that's in the well is like a calcium fluoride, isn't it? It's not sodium fluoride. There's a pretty substantial difference when it comes to.
There is.
I
Yeah.
don't know the answer to that. I'm not
Okay,
sure.
I'm pretty sure I don't think sodium fluoride is naturally occurring, but
No.
yeah.
No.
And that's the one that's bad for you. I just want to make a note of that. And would we be, if we started using the ground or the surface water, we wouldn't add fluoride to that either, would we?
Only if you just made that as a policy.
Okay.
At the
No.
moment, there's no plans in our water master
Okay,
plan.
I was
Doesn't
just
doesn't have
checking.
fluoride injection included in the plan.
Okay.
Next question from public. We have to go around robin a little bit, so we'll go back to you here in a second. Does anyone else have a question? Go ahead.
Alex Davis, 125 Locust Street. And it's in regard to the mass surveillance cameras that were installed in the city. Yes, yeah, the flock cameras. So I have a two-part question. So what is the total cost of the system, including installation, subscriptions, maintenance, and future renewals? And then how is this project being funded?
Great question. So this one over to Chief, or do you want to take it, Dave?
I'll start and then I'll actually go to Detective Capers. And if the Mayor, if you would like, we do have some other additional information that we could put up on the board. We can show folks on this as well.
That's fine. Yeah.
So I'll start with the direct questions and I'll kind of give a little bit more background on that as well, if I could. So the first question, if I understand correctly, is what is the total cost of the system? So it's a subscription service. The cost is $21,000 a year for the service. That includes the installation. We don't own any of the equipment. It's all considered lease. And so if the technology, it's considered proprietary technology. If it's ever updated at any given time, they'll swap out the old with the new at some point in time as part of that lease. And the project is being funded directly through general fund dollars. So that's general fund is going to be your franchise fees, your property taxes, liquor tax, things like that come into the general fund. In general, I wanted to take a moment to give a little bit of background to Flock, how we're using it here at the city and kind of how that came up. I asked Detective Capers if he could kind of prepare and share some information with us on that. Yeah, come on up. While they're setting that up, when Detective Sergeant Capers is done with that, I'll also have city attorney. She'll give us a little bit of a legislative background, a kind of history of what's happened with that system over the last year or so. And I'll try to fill in a little bit more city history on that too, to kind of wrap that up. This should take about 10 minutes or so.
So like Mr. Stockdale said, I was tasked with putting together a quick presentation on this. So
Yeah, really speak on the microphone.
how about now?
Way better.
Okay. Like Mr. Stockdale said, I've been tasked with putting together a brief presentation on this. So hopefully it'll answer a lot of your questions and we'll go from there. So to start with, we chose these cameras because we had a string of shootings last year. They were all last summer. So I'll just kind of go through them case by case. So the first one was on July 6th at 10 p.m. We had shots fired at Tri Harbor Apartments. Multiple apartments were struck. A 19-year-old was shot in the ear from a moving vehicle. We recovered 17 9mm casings from that scene. On July 28th at 4:40 a.m., we had shots fired in the 900 block of 8th Street. It was an occupied residence with children inside, etc. Struck multiple times. We recovered 15 5.56 rounds or casings. On August 26th at 9:09 p.m., we had shots fired again in the 900 block of 8th Street, occupied residences and vehicles struck. We had 9mm casings, 8 40mm casings, and 25 .223 casings. And those were just the ones that were recovered that night on scene. The next day, officers were doing canvases and found many more rounds that had been shot in all 3 of these shootings. So I started following up on the investigation, and I quickly found that all 3 of these shootings were related to each other. The surveillance footage from local residences, business, et cetera, gave us a starting point. And what you can see in that screenshot down there is our first look at our suspect vehicle. As you can tell, I don't know how well you know cars, but if you're looking at the lights on the back of that car, we were pretty quickly able to figure out it was a Dodge Durango. We drive them every day. But that was about all we had. It may be red, it may be something else due to the lighting, we don't know, but we have a Dodge Durango. The second shooting, or this would actually be the third shooting on 8th Street. This is more video that we recovered of the video. As you can see, we have maroon Dodge Durango, black wheels, no license plate, and nothing else to really help us move forward with that. So I kind of explained all this. So we knew we had a red or a maroon Durango. We had little to no cooperation from people with knowledge of the crime, including some victims. It's very often that victims are also engaged in the activity that led to the shooting. So very often they do not want to tell us who shot them when they know who shot them. About a week after the final shooting, I located new surveillance footage that showed a distinct feature on the vehicle. And I'm not going to go into too many details of the case because these cases still are open, but I can say we located something that was distinct to help us identify it. So it led to us identifying the vehicle by license plate, and we were able to do a traffic stop on the vehicle. Knowing that this was our suspect vehicle, I attempted to get a search warrant to search the vehicle for weapons, evidence of the crime like shell casings, etc. I was told by our district attorney's office that because about a week had passed, the evidence was stale, and I had no lawful justification to get a search warrant for it. That's not the first time this has happened in shootings. This has kind of been a reoccurring theme in my 10 years here. We get very close, but things like this happen and it kind of derails the investigations. In all 3 of these shootings, the suspect vehicle went through major intersections and would have been captured by ALPRs, allowing us to immediately identify and act on the lead. So had we identified the vehicle by plate the night of any of these shootings, we would have had our nexus to get a search warrant and attempt to locate evidence of the shooting in there to hopefully prosecute a viable case. So I'm going to kind of change topics here to how we're going to use the system, because like many of you, I spend a lot of time online and I hear a lot of stuff about these flock cameras, and I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the concerns. So 2 things here is I've created an internal form for all searches, which I will show you in a moment. And in addition to that, the flock interface has its own audit. So for every single search that's performed using flock cameras and UPD's network, this form will be provided to me. I don't know how well you guys can see that. Can everybody read that pretty well? Kind of. Okay. I'll kind of go over some highlights. So to start with, the officer who's doing the request is going to identify themselves and their agency. They're going to provide me a case number or an incident number. They are going to indicate whether this is a local, federal, or task force investigation. Federal is a scary word. We're not using it for federal purposes, but if somebody selects federal, we know to file it away and we're done with it. So that's the purpose of that being there. Task force could be for example, the Blue Mountain or Bent team, the narcotics team. That would be an example of a task force. Underneath that, they are going to have to read through each of these 4 sentences, I guess, that have them acknowledge that they're using this for the proper reason. They're requesting me to do the search for a lawful reason. So, and I'll read these in case anyone can't read them. So the first box is this search is for a lawful criminal investigation, missing or endangered person investigation, or other authorized purpose. The second one is this request is supported by a lawful investigative basis. The third box is this information obtained will not be used for immigration enforcement. And the final box is the information will not be used to monitor protected political, religious, or other constitutionally protected activities. And these are all standards that were in compliance with the Oregon Senate Bill 1516. After that, they will have to provide a synopsis establishing the reasonable suspicion or lawful investigative basis for the request. After that, they have to give me what they're searching for, the actual search parameters. If they already have the license plate, great. If they don't, give me the descriptors of the vehicle, and we'll see if it's even plausible to run a search with whatever information that they may have. They will sign it, and then after I perform the search, I will put my findings in it. These will all be filed away in UPD. This form is separate from the Flock interface. It has nothing to do with Flock. It's for our own records, so that we're able to kind of have that double. We're able to keep track of it in two different ways. And this one actually is one I filled out the other day. Sorry about that. This is one I actually filled out the other day, so I'll read it for those who can't read it. So this one was for a theft, I believe. Yep. So my synopsis was UPD responded to a theft call at the McNary Market on 7/9/26 at approximately 2 p.m. The suspect stole wine coolers from the store and left in a Chevrolet pickup with window stickers. The store provided the responding officer with a photo of the suspect and vehicle, but the plate was not visible. The search that I ran was for 24-hour search for a brown or silver Chevrolet Silverado with window stickers and further search of plate if located. Based on that search, I was immediately able to find our suspect vehicle in the area of the McNary Market, immediately proceeding and following the theft. So that's our in-house way that we're monitoring this. The second way is this is the audit that Flock actually keeps. So every time I do a search, it will be held in their system. Again, I'm not sure how well you guys can see this. Do I need to go up there and point through things or? Okay.
Pointer.
Oh, no, perfect. Which one?
Right.
Sorry, I got to be able to see too. So each search
It just
has
go
its
point
own.
and walk around. It's easier.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna do that.
Yeah, you're good.
Mike. Nice. So each search is logged through the Flock interface with its own unique ID. It shows the person requesting the search. It shows what networks you're searching, which these are the Umatilla networks. It shows you how many devices are being searched. Sorry, which we have 10 devices. It shows you the time and date. I blurred out the license plates because these are suspects in crimes. And then it'll show you the reason why you did the search, the case number, and that's pretty much it. So to kind of put this in conjunction with the form I just explained. Sorry guys, do we have a better
Need to make sure that microphone is off.
So like I said, to show you how this works in conjunction with our form, for each time I'm requested a search, I put in our case number. If it's from an outside agency, I will put in their case number. Again, this shows you what exactly we're searching for and the reason why. So if you're curious about why I performed a search for a Pasco case, they had a shooting a few days ago, a drive-by shooting, and they determined the suspect lived in Umatilla with his mother, and it was reasonable to believe that he returned to his home in Umatilla using the suspect vehicle. So that's why the search was performed. I can just use this one over here too, I think. Actually, I'll take that one. Sorry.
Keepers, I've got a question for you here. So it says network. Can we search other people's network? So can we search Hermiston's independently? Okay.
With the way I have the permission set up, it's no. And I have a slide for that. But before we get to that, I want to show you guys exactly how the searches work so you guys are aware of what we're looking at on our end. Again, this is a search, a test search using a patrol vehicle. So what I did was I typed in the license plate of one of our patrol vehicles and set the parameters for 24 hours and hit search. And this is what you get back. So there's many more hits than this. This is just what's visible in the screenshot because the list is much larger. But that will show you every time it's past one of the cameras. I grabbed some of these shots to blow them up for you guys so you can see exactly what we're looking at. I know there's a big concern out there about facial recognition and things along those lines. Facial recognition in the cameras we have does not exist. I'll show you this. That's the best we can do for facial recognition. And I mean, maybe on a good day with super clear windows and no clouds, you might be able to make out a face. But generally speaking, you're not getting a face and there's no facial recognition AI software involved in this. So here's another way we can search. So instead of searching for a specific patrol vehicle, I search for all gray and silver Durangos because the PD has gray and black Durango, sorry. And then I was able to fine tune the search using SUV, selecting the colors and the make, and this is what I get back. So the first two, the plates are blurred because those are civilians that have nothing to do with anything, and I don't want to put their information out there. The next two are obviously our patrol vehicles that picked up one of our black ones and one of our gray ones. And again, there's more results on here, but this is just what I could grab for a screenshot. When it comes to sharing, so again, I'm not sure how well you guys can see this, but the yellow bar there says that based on the current settings, this network will not be discoverable to other organizations and will not be able to receive share requests. So immediately after getting this, I messed with the settings because my thought on this thing is we want this for Umatilla crimes. We want this to solve crimes in town. I don't want to deal with any nonsense from the outside. So we do not share with any other agency, and with that in mind, that takes away my ability to view other agencies' networks as well. So this is strictly all maintained within Umatilla. Again, just more examples there on the right, the gray box, device sharing shared with none, access levels none. All the auto requests that this interface comes with, or everything's disabled, everything's shut down. This part is, so essentially right now, at this point in time, I'm the only person performing searches in the agency. We are able to assign different roles. So the roles that I have assigned are admin, which consists of myself, the lieutenant, and the chief. Sergeants, which consists of our patrol sergeants, Tuvey and Dyke, and patrol. Patrol and sergeants at this point in time don't have the ability to search. The only thing they have the ability to use Flock for is hot lists. Hot lists are, let's say we had a shooting, we developed a suspect vehicle. I could enter that vehicle into a hot list within our own confined system. If one of our cameras catch that, it'll alert the officers that are working that day. That's the only feature that all the officers have enabled. That being said, although I'm the only one doing the searches now, once I understand the software or the system better, I would like to expand that to the patrol sergeants. That way every shift there's somebody in an admin role who has the ability to perform these searches.
Another question here. So you mentioned that those are admin roles that you've selected.
Yes.
Not roles necessarily, settings for sharing. Do we have, what is our policy in place that prevents this? Let's say you move on to a different career path. God forbid you become a state patrolman. And, Officer Dyke steps in and then he switches a switch, presses a button by accident. What policies are in place? And this might be a question for Chief to ensure that those settings stay the same. And how are we preventing that from, as one person moves on, they flip a switch? What are we doing to ensure that doesn't happen?
It would fall under administrative oversight by the lieutenant and myself.
So we have no policy though, like written policy. It's just, okay. That's okay.
Yes. There's a copy of it on the table right there.
Okay.
When it comes to sharing as well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Woodburn, Oregon had, I think, 29 cameras, and they, the Flock company allowed the feds to actually access their cameras 6,089 times, if I read the article right. Do we have any guarantee that the feds won't be able to use a backdoor like that?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to have our attorney jump in on that. It's a great segue right now because we'll help answer that question. That may have been true prior to Senate Bill 1516, but it hasn't been that way for the last 4 months. But I'll let Joanna, if you can give us a little bit of a history of Flock at the legislative level and at the legal level in Oregon for the last year.
Sure. So Mayor and Council, hi, my name is Joanna Lyons-Antley. For those of you who are not familiar, I'm the city attorney. And I think just to quickly answer your question, I think, Counselor, the answer is no. Senate Bill 1516 no longer allows Flock to release that information. It makes it expressly clear that that information is owned by the agency that it contracts with, and that there are penalties for releasing that information. So quickly answering your question, let me give you a little bit of background about Senate Bill 1516. So it was enacted earlier this year, March 31st, 2026, in response to a number of concerns like the one you mentioned, Councilman, It was enacted an emergency enactment, and I think it was really in reaction to a lot of the concerns across the nation, and especially here locally, about the data that was collected. And so it puts, I would consider this maybe a best practices out there. It's certainly, I'm sure, not perfect, but it does provide really good safeguards to the license plate or flock system that's out there. It specifically states what you can use the flock system for, and what uses are prohibited, and how you deal with the data that's collected. So I'm just going to kind of quickly summarize what the bill says. You all can find it online. It is in the Oregon legislative system, and it's called Senate Bill 1516. If anybody has any additional questions, once I kind of summarize it for you. But essentially, it says you may not use the data unless it's for some very specific purposes. One is for identifying a vehicle that was to facilitate the commission of a crime. We certainly saw that use in our own community. You cannot use it unless it's IDing a vehicle for outstanding warrants, alerts, uninsured vehicle, or unregistered vehicle. And when I say alerts, I mean specifically amber alerts or silver alerts. Certainly you can imagine that might be very useful in our community if we were able to use it for that purpose, which we are now. So there are other things that you can use it for, but those are just kind of some broad aspects for it. You don't retain the data for more than 30 days unless there is an active court case or criminal investigation. I think that is certainly one of the concerns we've heard, is that this data sits there, and what do you do with it, and how long do you retain it? It's no longer an issue. As the sergeant stated, there is audit information that is required by Flock to provide the local agency. I'm glad to see that we have our own tracking form. I think that certainly articulates why we're using the Flock camera in each circumstance. It also is very nice that, and I think it's a good policy, that there are a limited number of people who can utilize the Flock camera system. Flock is required to meet several national guidelines, including the state police guidelines, but the Federal Bureau of Investigation relating to kidnapping and missing persons. So they have some higher standards that they must meet. Now, I'm not saying that the system didn't do that before, but certainly having it in state law and requiring it makes it certainly easier for us to utilize and justify the use of. The next thing that I think is important is that a law enforcement officer who conducts a traffic stop of a motor vehicle based on the alert must visually confirm that the license plate number, the state, and other vehicle characteristics match the alert, and it complies with agency policy and applicable law. So there is a visual aspect to this. It's not just AI looking at the information if there is a stop. I will note that it does not seem to be an issue for us, but you can allow other law enforcement agencies to utilize the data that we collect. But again, it has to be consistent with state law. Mentioned the audit. One of the most important things that I think is important to this community is that the city of Umatilla must establish policies and procedures that I heard that the chief does have, that ensure that there's adequate training, that the data is secure, that it's accurate, relevant, and timely, and that the process for using the data is compliant. We audit the information, and quite frankly, anything else that doesn't follow state law is flat out prohibited. And then I think the last thing, which I think is to your question, Councilman, is vendors are expressly prohibited from accessing, disclosing, selling, sharing, or otherwise using the captured license plate data on the automated license plate system. If they violate this intentionally or with gross negligence, any individual may bring the individual who's subject to the release may bring a civil action against the vendor for economic and non-economic damages and get attorney's fees. And I think that's just a pretty straightforward summary. I will say that I am very pleased with this law. I think it in fact, addresses many of the concerns that are out there. Remember that these cameras are for law enforcement purposes, and where they're located, they're in public areas, places that you would not expect to have a reasonable expectation of privacy. When you go out on the street or you're out on the sidewalk, you should know that you can be photographed. There is no belief that you will not be photographed. And so that information is being utilized, I believe, in accordance with the law and in a responsible manner.
Thank you.
I have something. So from what I understand, doing a little bit of research, this is actually the license plate review section, right? So this is just no different than the ones that you have in your car that alerts when you drive by. Essentially, it's a bigger system, but it's essentially the same thing. It's not the Condor system, which they also have, which is the facial recognition, the pan tilt zoom that will follow you and all that stuff. So, right, we're just doing the
We do
license
have-
plate one.
Yeah, we have LPR, so we don't have anything that does.
Right. I just wanted to make sure because there's a lot of information that is on the internet and there's some confusing things about that. Also, a quick Google search, the last lawsuit in the state of Oregon, the most notable, was in October of 25. So that was prior to this Senate bill happening. So this legislation has really kind of throttled everything down, which is fantastic.
How do we know they delete the information after 30 days? What kind of guarantee do we have on that?
That's something I'm gonna have to do further research on and get back to you guys on.
My next question might be more towards legal. So if the federal government, for example, were to pass a bill saying that any, I'm gonna get this acronym wrong, but ALPRs can be searchable at the federal level, is there a stopgap to prevent that from happening in Oregon? Like if we say, okay, fine, federally, you have to have access to them, what's the protections are there for Oregon citizens after that?
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Joanna, did you hear that
They'd have to get a
question?
subpoena. They'd have to go through that way.
Yeah, but even then.
Yeah, even then, I don't.
Well, so it's an interesting question, and I think we'd have to have more specifics. I will say that Senate Bill 1516 makes it clear you can't use it for certain purposes. So I saw Sergeant had you can't use it for immigration purposes, for example, and that is the state law and interpreting the state constitution. If you have a federal law, then it would be a question of whether the federal law preempts the state law. So I think it's hard for me to say what would happen without knowing what the federal law actually would say or the interpretation would say. But I would feel confident that if we followed state law, well, they're not going to come after little city Umatilla first. They're going to go after bigger cities. We'll just say that.
Yes.
I just had a question too. I wanted to know what's the quality of the cameras like at night? Do you have a still shot or anything to show us what the quality is at nighttime?
I don't have one with me, but the vehicles can be a bit difficult to identify, but the license plates come in clear as day.
Okay. Thank you.
Do these create a heat map? I know over in, was it Oshkosh, Wisconsin or something, they were told the council there that it did not create a heat map of vehicles and just random vehicles, not like suspect vehicles either. But they said the block, agent said it did not. And then it turns out that it actually did. It was creating heat map of individual vehicles through town. And so they canceled their block subscription after that.
I think I just need to understand what a heat map is. a
Well,
little bit.
so it's like, say the camera picks me up on power line, and then a little while later it picks me up over on 730 somewhere. And then the AI puts together like, hey, that car at this time went from here to here. And then it records that information for the supposed 30 days. But anyway, if I was to travel more that day, it would create like a heat, like a layer where I'd been driving at, kind of follow through town. Anyway, it's called heat mapping of the. So does that
So-
system do that?
I have not seen that capability. I wouldn't even know how to access it, but I will look into it and see if that's something that is possible. To my knowledge so far, the best I can see is what time it passed by what camera, but I haven't seen any compilation of individual vehicle movements.
Okay.
But I will look into it further because I don't have the full answer for you.
All right. Thank you.
If I could add, Joanna, if you could too, one of the things on the legislation that went through is not just the municipalities use, but on the vendors' compliance with the state law. So the 30-day that's there, in order for Flock to get their license to operate in Oregon, they had to demonstrate that they comply with that law. And so they, as a vendor, because there's our patrol vehicle cameras is from a company called Axon. So ALPRs, it's like buying Levi's or Wranglers. Which one do you like? There's Axon, there's Flock, there's several of them out there. And so we have two different brands for two different things. But they've had to have that certification and inspection to do that. But Joanna, you can double check on there, but there's that there's the language at the end of that legislation there that shows that any vendor that's operating in the state must comply with the terms of this legislation.
As long as they do. And so there's a third party that actually verifies that they are following the law
They have to be audited as well as we have to be
by a
audited.
private party that goes into Flock and audits them. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure who the auditor is,
Okay.
but I understand that's what's in the legislation.
Okay.
I would agree with you. It is in it wasn't something I picked up on, but yes, it is something that is required. The law requires that.
When you get it like a hit, for example, sorry to ask so many questions. When you get like a hit though, like say a car's passing by and they're, on the system for being wanted, when your officers get that hit, do they double check and verify the original report against the license plate before that? Because I've heard of like some false, like either an officer putting in the plate wrong or something like that. And I've also heard that the cameras themselves have read like a 7 and it's actually a 1 or something like that. And then there's been people, pulled out of their car at gunpoint. One guy actually spent a month in jail before they got it cleared away. I'm just kind of curious, do you guys actually double check and verify before initiating the stop, or how does that work?
Yeah, we rely on visual recognition, and we have prior to the ALPRs. I'll give you an example. We had a stolen vehicle pass one of our in-car ALPRs last month. It alerted that it was a stolen vehicle.
That pickup.
The pickup, yep. Officer Wilson got on the radio and confirmed with dispatch that the vehicle was stolen, and even our dispatcher provided him with the vehicle description after he ran the plate to confirm it was that Dodge.
Okay.
And then the chase was on, and that's how we do our business.
Okay. I'm not doubting our PD, man. I think we got the finest PD in the whole planet and stuff. I just want to make sure there's guardrails in place. I want to make sure that like a future administrations that we don't miss anything if when it comes to this kind of thing, because it's kind of a big deal.
Okay. Mr. Smith, go ahead. Real quick.
Just a quick question. Was this approved by city council before I got on council?
We never took a direct resolution to the council, no. So at the beginning of Sergeant Caper's presentation there, we talked about those incidences in July. And then we came before the police subcommittee, and we had that meeting at the community center. And then that was followed up. Sergeant Capers actually came here in September of last year and gave a brief introduction of us as part of the response. We talked about adding lights and other things on 7th Street and 8th Street and looking at cameras. So this was part of that initial response for that. And something that we mentioned in that meeting on, I believe it was in September, either the first or second meeting of September of last year. We went out to get this contract from Flock at that time, but we saw as these cases were going around, we had internal discussions. There was a case in Washington, a case in California, a case in Eugene, and it was kind of out there. And so exchanges between myself and the chief, we said we need to take just a tactical pause The legislature said they're going to address this in the next legislative session, so we paused. And so it went to the went to the legislature in the short session. The Senate Bill 1516 was the result of that. And when that was completed, then we moved forward with the contract for that. What's approved in the budget for this is in the police department's budget, we have equipment, consulting contracts and those kinds of things like that. And it was listed as part of our annual budget for that, but we did not highlight it during budget committee meetings. It was there. So we had the budget approval and the ability to purchase it. The 21,000 is underneath our procurement rules. So the city's procurement rules for that, it's a piece of equipment and a tool that is been delegated to staff to be able to make that purchase.
And realistically, that's not something that we would typically see anyways, because they wouldn't come to us if they wanted tasers or if they wanted something of that nature.
Well, this is new and more controversial than that.
Oh, yeah,
Where I'm
but
at.
think about it. We have a small community. We have a small community and we only have so many resources, so many officers. And you got an officer at 2 a.m. that's on until 6 a.m. all by himself. So you have a crime going on. Wouldn't it be nice to have that information?
Still seems like it should be a nice thing though to run by the council if we're going to surveil the entire community.
I personally don't want it. I mean, we entrust these guys make a lot of money. So we entrust that there's a problem. If there's an issue, then we hold them accountable.
Yeah.
That's kind of our rule, you know. I guess I look at things differently and this is only my vision, but that's not my role. That's their job to run those departments. If there's an issue with it, then we deal with them. That's my theory of the governing body that we have.
Mr. Smith, go ahead and ask your question, please.
Most things. Thank you. My mic keeps going on and off. It's been a bad joke for 9 months.
That's okay.
In general, I would agree with you, but something this controversial, I think the public should be involved in it. I think we should have had public hearings and then the council approve or not.
Yeah.
My opinion,
I respect your opinion. I hear you. Yeah.
Any further questions from council? Okay.
No, I
Go
just do want to say, I do appreciate that we did put policies in place. I'm glad that you guys are really forward thinking in the fact that this is who's acceptable, this is who's not, this is who can access the information. And I like the fact that we're denying other agencies from seeing our stuff. If they want it, they can come get a subpoena. They can work through the proper process. I believe that it's ours to have. And so I think it's a good thing. And I think it's great that we have that policy in place. I really like the checklist. I really like that.
I agree with you on that. I mean, if we're going to have them, I agree with you on that. I just don't like them to begin with, you know. But if we're going to have them, like you said, I mean, I agree. We got to have some really strict policies in place. I think, and I think you guys did do a good job at putting some of the policies in place.
Well,
But
my concern is like did the police committee approve this policy? Like who approved this from?
State Bill 1516 required us to put one.
No, I know they recommended it, but who approved this one? Like
Gotcha.
who said yes to this policy? Like did a public body look at it, or is it just written by the police department and then published by the police department?
No, that policy came from Lexipol. Lexipol is a nationwide company that specializes with attorneys to issue policies to departments.
So no Umatilla citizens reviewed this policy. No one talked about this policy. It was just handed to us by a company that we just.
In the same sense, sir, how many people in the
My
city?
question can still be asked.
Okay.
That's still a question. Okay, so no citizen looked at this policy?
It hasn't been practiced that the citizens review our policies.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we going to have
Mr. DeFluff, go ahead.
Are we going to have them look at our wastewater policy too, and our Parks and Rec policy, and our weapons use policies? And I'm just asking a question.
No, you're right, and there's certain things that
There's a reason why we pay a lot of money to a figurehead. If we got a problem with it, then we come to him and say, fix it. That's us. That's our governing body. That's just my understanding of how this system works.
Mr. Smith?
I think Mr. Dufloff, I think you're taking a lot of very common things
Mhm.
and mixing it with something that's not common. Because the next thing we're going to see in the next 2 to 3 years is the use of AI.
Okay.
And I don't think the general public is comfortable with that. I don't think if you were to poll the audience or the citizens that you would find that the average person is in favor of these flock cameras.
Okay. And I appreciate that. I really do. But I mean, I can't predict what 2 years from now looks like, nor can you.
No.
So, just like my grandpa said that, the rock and roll music's the devil. So I mean, we can go all day long. What I'm trying to get at is that's really not my role as this position. Anybody that has sat in this role, you would understand kind of where I'm coming from. I don't have the ability, nor do I have the prowess to sit in front of him and say, this is what you do with the policy. That's not my role. That's not your role. That's not anybody's role. That is his. If we have a problem with the policy, we as a group then go to him and say, we have policies. Does that make sense?
And I think that's the conversation we're currently having now, is that we might have an issue with this policy and how
Right.
do we move forward with that policy.
Right. Okay.
I think
Perfect.
that's where we're at now. I
Gotcha.
think that's what I mean. I understand what you're saying. I agree. I think that's the discourse we're currently having.
Okay.
So if I can, a little on that. So again, we came before, as we said, this was in response to shootings that occurred there in July. We met with the subcommittee, we met with the council. We presented the idea to the council in that September meeting, and we received no feedback to the contrary to tell us to stop. It was internally that staff hit our tactical pause as we saw it was there, as we waited for the legislative procedure to run through its course and come that way. With this, it's a annual subscription. If it's something that the council doesn't want to renew or to fund into the future, we can cancel it at any time and not renew the subscription. They'll come and collect their equipment and it'll be gone.
So I think that the question that I think Lyle brought up though is like, we didn't approve this to begin with, so how can we not approve it next time? If it was part of just the police equipment budget, do we not approve the police equipment budget?
You
for
do.
the entirety of it? Okay.
Yeah, so the policy you have before you, as Chief is mentioning, so the city operates, this is anecdotal, but we probably have 100 administrative policies that government we have. The ones that we bring to you each year are things like our employee handbook. It has an AI policy that we just brought to you just 2 months ago that was included in that, and staff highlighted that policy. We have our procurement policy that we just also brought to you just recently back in March. That policy has the delegated authority from the council to the city manager or my designee, and at certain thresholds that are set up there. And one of the things it sets up there is based upon has to be a certain dollar amount and threshold, and has to be in the approved budget. So in this case, we've checked all the boxes of policy. If we've identified a gap on something here, then we can certainly amend that procedure, those policies. Happy to do that, whatever's at the desire of the council to be able to bring something forward. But from our perspective, we felt we had already brought this to you, had it as a discussion item. It was in the adopted budgets and it was in our administrative procedures. So we followed those. I don't believe that there was any policy or procedure that wasn't followed.
Hey, Dave, you mentioned that like these are, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here or anything, but you said that these are not our cameras, right? And you said that if the cameras get upgraded, that they will just come and do the upgrade and it wouldn't cost the city any extra money. I guess my question is right now, Detective Capers is saying that they do not do facial recognition. And from the pictures, it didn't look like it have the capability. But if in the future they brought new upgraded cameras to us that were capable like that, would we get a say in whether or not we use facial recognition or allow that in the city?
So at the moment, there's not a policy that would require that to come to council. If that's something that you'd like, we could certainly create the policy to make sure we could do that. This is a guess, I'm speculating. It would be an add-on feature like a module. You would pay extra for the subscription for it, that sort of thing. So we would have some sort of decision to be made on whether that would be an add-on feature that we'd want to include or not.
Okay.
I completely understand what you're saying. I don't want nobody spying on me either.
No,
I really don't. But I also understand when I walk out and I'm on the community, I'm in the public, it's really, people can film me.
no, you can, whatever you see with your eye, you can film in public.
Correct.
I get that.
So I I guess I just look at the information and whether they put the threshold of the 30 days. I really like that. I like the fact that we governed it to where we can say who gets what, where, when, and why. You have to have a legitimate reason to have it. And now, mind you, I have a skewed vision because I work in an industry that I'm videoed all the time. And we have cameras all over the prison.
So do we at work, yeah.
Yeah.
We just got them put in our trucks even.
Correct. So with that in mind, and I agree with you, I don't know 5 years from now what AI is going to do with it. I have no idea. I know that the information that's right in front of me right now that I can't see the future on, I understand that this will dramatically help our small community. Do I think it'll infringe on the rights? I think if we have these fail safes in place, I don't think they will.
Yeah, that's why I want to see some guardrails, bare minimum. I'm just saying,
Right.
Because like I was watching some things with the CEO of Flock, and he was saying there's a project called Nova is their next thing they're talking about, which our cameras aren't supposedly capable of that. But this project Nova would take, a license plate or facial recognition, and then it would go to like social media. It would go to those places where they look up arrest records. It would go to the police database, wherever that thing is, and it would just compile it all at one thing. So you'd have this thing that's just like all the information on the internet about you at one shot. And it's just where
It's
to draw the
mind-boggling.
line.
I agree.
So one thing that I would just recommend is, so this is new legislation, less than 4 months old in Oregon. And so things that you might come across, however you come across it, if it's from a different state or if it's from Oregon, it's from more than a year ago, just recognize that it was a different parameters and stuff sent then. And I kind of mentioned this at the council meeting last week, which was when this technology came out, these automated license plate readers, there was a lot of interest in the public safety providers out there for a lot of the reasons that we demonstrated here tonight. And I think a lot of agencies kind of rushed to it to get it implemented. And it kind of came out with, it came out with absolutely no guardrails and safety nets or whatever analogy you want to use. And the state has set that up for us now. And kind of what Joanna mentioned as well, it's brand new right out the gate policy. Is it perfect? We acknowledge that it's not a perfect policy. I fully anticipate that this will be something that'll be reviewed most likely either annually or every other year at the legislature as it continues to get tweaked and updated. Our commitment is to continue to comply with whatever the state law might be on that, and to have those audits and to have those third party procedures as they might be.
Yeah.
I didn't have a question, but it's this thing. I mean, we could sit up here, we could be in the audience, and we could wish this technology doesn't exist, but it does. And this thing boils down in a lot of ways to how do we weigh public safety versus individual privacy? And you hit the nail on the head. Where do we draw the line? And how does this all go? Everybody will have a different opinion on how you weigh public safety versus individual privacy. And I think we've got a long way to getting guardrails in what we're doing in Umatilla. Undoubtedly, there'll be more. Undoubtedly, there'll be more from the legislature as, chinks in the armor are found. I mean, human beings are human beings. There'll be mistakes. There'll be things that have to be legislated to be fixed. It's kind of embarrassing. It's true, but it's kind of embarrassing to, be a little bit out of the know and have the statistics and the information, set up on a screen for everybody to see about the number of shootings and the number of, discharged cartridges in the city, our city.
And that's the other one. Please understand also, I would rather give up just a little bit of my freedom when it comes to that to save a life. I would much rather have a camera in this area and us govern it correctly. If we can find somebody and hold them accountable. I'm sick and tired of these guys getting away with this crap all the damn time. And if we can find a tool that'll help us do that, and I don't think anybody will disagree with me of that. I want to find these dirtbags. I want them to go to jail. I want them held accountable 100%. Because when they came to us the other day, well, how many months ago, we were talking about the lights and these are the little late, I'm sorry, the person living in the house scared to death to be in her house.
Yeah.
And we could do nothing about it. That's the stuff that stresses me out. So if I have to give up just a little bit of my privacy to find that dirt bag, I'm all good with it.
But are there other methods that wouldn't be as intrusive? I'm wondering. I'm just curious.
More officers. That's what we talked about that night.
Fine with that.
How do we pay for it?
We'll
I mean,
figure it
that-
out. We'll figure it out.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, we have some questions.
Okay. Are we good to move on? We have more from
More flock stuff?
from Caper?
Yeah, thank you for checking in. No, I think we're good on this now. I've also just wanted to just take 2 seconds to pause, and we brought a lot of staff here. Tonight's probably the most staff you've ever seen at a council meeting ever.
That's awesome.
I know about a
and
third of you.
You are probably looking at 25%, 30% of every city employee right now.
Yeah.
And just because we didn't know what the questions were going to come, we anticipated this one, so we came a little extra prepared for this. But they're all here to listen, to kind of see and engage, and I hope we have the right people here available for you. If we don't, we'll get you the answer by August 4th, like I said.
Make it effective. Okay, moving on now to questions from citizenry. Ms. Pratt, go ahead.
Yes.
Hi, Denise Pratt, 148 Rio Sanda Street. I just want to say quickly about the flock. I'm glad it was brought up. I think what the real issue here is the transparency. That many times that this was something important enough to have had a bigger conversation about. I am so thankful that we have finally had town hall, and I request that there are more of these town halls. If there was town halls every quarter, this kind of thing would have been able to come up and people wouldn't have been upset about it, because yes, we do. People are not necessarily against the flock. They're against the fact that they didn't know what was going to happen. Okay, so my question is, I've said it before when I've been in front of you guys that we moved here for the climate and for the view. And we were extremely upset to have the transmission lines go in our view. And today, we have our house up for sale because we're moving back to Portland. That's the plan. And somebody today looked at our house and said that they weren't interested because of the transmission lines in the view. So what are we doing to ensure that there will be no more transmission lines in our view? There aren't a lot of view properties in this town. And if you want this town to grow, one of the things that's going to bring people in is view property. And our view property has now been ruined. So what are we going to do? We've talked about this several times. There's been a lot of neighbors that have spent a lot of time and energy trying to address this issue. What can we do right now to ensure that that does not happen again and that our views are protected?
That was zoned utility, I think, from the 70s, right? So how would we,
Yeah.
was it the state or county? We'd have to get that changed from utility to something else, or people.
Let's change it. Let's do something. Let's have some action to do something to change that.
The bigger problem that I see with that is it's owned by the federal government. So all that ground is chosen to be whatever it wants to by the Corps of Engineers.
It was also told to us by UEC that it was the city's choice to put those lines there. They could have put them someplace else. They could have changed some of the zoning. I know you've said that they couldn't, but you can. You've changed zoning for other things. You can change zoning for those power lines, and UEC told us at one of those big meetings that the city chose those spots.
It's my understanding that those.
Let's go to Stockdale. Mr. Stockdale.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. This is the first I've ever heard that UEC has said that the city has done that, because the city absolutely did not tell them that this is where it's going.
It's this person,
Yeah.
they told us that.
The engine line.
Yeah, hold on, well, let's just have Mr. Stockdale finish it and we can go for about. Thank you.
Yeah, so while UEC was doing their, for lack of a better term, their due diligence phase of trying to figure out how to create, where to put transmission lines, they did have meetings with the city. But to what Councilman Duffloff reported, so their land use application was for where we had jurisdiction. All that land to the north is on federal lands and federal property. We cannot We have no jurisdiction over those lands. Our land use laws do not apply there. Where their permit and application was specific for the city was inside city limits and through that. So that was areas along Devore and maybe areas along 730. There was a small section, but they were looking to show the entire development there. So it was county, it was city, it was federal lands. And so when we ran through that process, did our analysis and so on, that ran through that land use process. At no time did the city say this is our preferred spot. That did not happen. You won't find a correspondence from any member of staff that did that. The only thing that we worked with them is they were looking at what we typically call alternatives analysis. Where are the locations that might work, where it could run through? And where our feedback that we gave them was we don't really have a specific idea for that. We typically don't provide information like that because that's kind of the fox guarding the chickens. And so we don't typically do that. What we were trying to do in those meetings was answer any land use questions they might have, hurdles they might need to work through, specification standards. They had a lot of questions in particular about EFU and things like that. There are two things associated with EFU or exclusive farm use lands. There are sort of two things that were at play here. The city's comprehensive plan was adopted in 1972 and has been amended several times since then. That was based upon the county's comprehensive plan. So every time the county updates their plan, we have to update ours. And every time we update ours, they have to update theirs on the comprehensive plan level. There are transmission lines in EFU property along Highway 730. We have no answer as to how those are there. From our records and our search, most of those are in the county rather than in the city. They're on the south side of 730, but not all of them. And we could not find any permits or any applications or anything associated with those. To the best of our knowledge, we found that those were installed likely in the 80s, but there was no paper trail on those. So from a land use perspective, we call those non-conforming permitted uses because they're there. It's understood that they've been there a long time, and they may not have paper trail. So EFU, the land use has changed and updated through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, particularly on EFU lands. And so there was a question there on the analysis on EFU. Well, EFU is not a designation inside city limits. So the EFU property that was out in the county is a county section of it. And again, was outside of what we would run through that. It's in the UGB. We run applications through the UGB. We have to apply the county standard in the UGB. So to answer the initial question with that, so I wanted to just be clear, the city did not, we did not make any recommendation to say you should do it here. What we were requesting to them was, if you're going to do anything like this, what can you do to mitigate? Can you have the transmission lines be shorter? So typically, I don't know what their destinations are. If they're X tall, then the distance between is Y length. We asked, if you made them a little shorter, can that length get a little shorter? And they said, yeah, we could probably do that. But we were trying to come up with whatever type of mitigations they might be able to have that could meet their need, that would also meet some of our areas on the land use, but we never made a recommendation of where that should go. On top of that, again, your initial question of what can we do now on those lands that are federal lands, we do not have jurisdiction over those lands. So there's at the moment, the way that federal law is written, state law, and as we are as a subdivision of the state, we cannot create any law locally that would regulate federal lands. We just don't have it.
Doesn't state law say too, if there is exclusive farmland use, but there is an alternative, a feasible alternative, you cannot go through this exclusive farmland or something along that line?
There is a lot of language and restrictions and alternatives and exceptions on exclusive farm use. I'm not prepared to ask the detailed question on that right now.
And I do want to declare a potential conflict of interest because I'm a property owner on that route. Just to be clear.
I'd like to declare the same thing since I live on.
Yeah. I need to. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yep.
Oops.
May say it all the way for the record.
Yeah.
Darren, say it all the way.
Yes, I'd like to declare a potential conflict on this subject. Please, thank you.
All right. Just wanted to cross our T's and dot our I's.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
I'll extend a little bit. In Oregon, In Oregon, except for rare exception and mostly in coastal cities that have been established, like in Tillamook County, for example, in partnership with the state, there is no such thing as a view area. With rare exception, there is some, but there's not very many. And there has to be through a designation through state and county combined, which is what Tillamook County has done. So there is an opportunity that we could do something like that here in Umatilla, but I forget the state land use goal. It's either 9 or 14 or one of the, I have to look it up. From our cursory review of that, Umatilla would not even qualify for what they define to be, whatever the term is, a view area. And so we'd have to research that a little bit more. But from my understanding today, I don't believe we would qualify.
Well, I'm very unsatisfied with the answer. I thank you for answering it, but at the same time, I'm unsatisfied. It seems to go against what the plan is for the city, is to be bringing more people in and to expand the city and have get a draw, rock the locks. I'm sure that also incorporated the view of the locks. So I think that there's more that can be done, and there's probably more places that are even going to be able to be built that can take advantage of the view. But right now, I'm more than disappointed that that happened. We were all extremely disappointed that happened. And again, the transparency, we were given 10 days notice that was going to happen. And so that transparency really didn't happen for us.
Thank you for your comments.
I'll add, and this is probably more salt to the wound, but with the federal law, the way it says, so by the way, we struggle with that as a staff, and I think as an organization in general, having the Columbia and the Umatilla right here and having access to the rivers. With rare exception, the majority of the lands are federally owned. And the way that it's set up here through the 1855 treaty, if anything transfers from federal ownership, from specifically the Army Corps of Engineers, it shall go to the Bureau of Indian Affairs first for trust, and then the tribes that can have claim to those lands will have first right of refusals for those lands. So even if it wasn't under federal jurisdiction, which the BIA still is, it still wouldn't be us. It would be another department of the federal government, and then likely over to sovereign tribes.
Thank you. Any questions from citizens? Mr. Troy, go ahead. Sorry, I forgot your last name. Mr. Excuse me.
So are we done with the power line?
I believe so, yes.
We can move on. And I'm sorry that you are feeling this way in this community. Initiative petition 28 is what I would like for the town hall meeting to pick up and discuss. Lauren, Britt, are you current? Are you here?
Joanna, can you hear? Sorry, Lauren. Yeah, sorry, Lauren. Can you hear us? He was asking if you can hear.
Yes,
Troy.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
So briefly, can you tell us what you are aware of with the initiative petition 28 as far as hunting, fishing, farming, ranching, and the process of it being on the ballot in November? And then, if I may, how many fishermen do we have here?
And if I can interject a little bit, Lauren, when you answer, if you could please give you have your name, if you could please provide your address as
Yeah,
well, so we
that's
can have
not a
that.
problem.
Sure.
Troy Lindstrom, 401 6th Street. Where was I? Fishing. Hunters. How many hunters? Ranchers?
I've had chickens before.
That's right. That farmers? Okay. So I'm not sure if the hall is aware of initiative petition 28, and that's why I was asking the attorney, city attorney, if she could give us some information on that, more information, if she knows it.
Oh, Joanna?
Joanna, do you have any information available to you on initiative petition 28?
First of all, I am a hunter, so hopefully that answers that question for you. I don't know much about Initiative Petition 28, but I certainly can do a little bit more research for the council if they want me to do that.
I think it would be helpful.
I know they tried a similar one about, was it 8 years ago, and it failed probably worse than any measure I've ever seen in Oregon.
But the thing is that they've got almost enough, if not currently enough, signatures to put it on the ballot in November.
Yeah, it was on the ballot, one of the actual general election
Yeah,
ballots.
wouldn't this be a statewide issue?
It
though?
would be a state issue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a state issue,
And
but
we unfortunately, there's nothing we could do as a council against it, other than say it's a horrible
No,
idea. Yeah. Otherwise, there's nothing we could do as a council or as a
Just
city.
wanted the community to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And
I'm highly against.
thank you, Troy.
Yeah.
You bet. It's definitely, we need to be, and I would challenge all of us to really read the citing when they put it in and how they write it. Because a lot of times they'll use word trickery in there, and then we wind up with a Senate bill that we didn't want. So read it well.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Okay, and also, I agree with you, Councilman Duffloff, as far as like accountability on the flock. But what's in the back of my mind and what I keep hearing is Benjamin Franklin, I think it was, who said, give up liberty for security and you'll have neither.
It's close.
I'm with you.
Accountability, though,
Yes.
is very important. It
Yes.
really is.
Yes.
I'm upset with the poker playing community here because I don't want to go on into that. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Troy. We
Thank you, Troy.
appreciate you. You know, Troy, I want to tell you, I appreciate you because you come quite a bit to the meetings and even if you don't participate, you're always involved. So thank you.
We appreciate it. Any questions from
Anyone
the
else?
public? Gentleman here in the white shirt. Yeah, push the button on the side.
Scott Lucas, 28123 Highway 730, 51-year resident, the class of 1981. I got several property questions for the city. There's two properties that are in deep decline. I think both are have safety issues to them. The first one is when you're entering town from the west end, the old Husky truck stop coffee cup cafe. I actually remember when the business was alive and running. I know there's a big fence around that now. I'm glad to see that. It's been there for a couple of years. But my understanding, like 5 years ago, people were saying, well, why isn't the buildings torn down? Because in what I was hearing was that there was a dirt study. They had to check the oil in the ground. Well, 5 years is a long time. And my question is on that property is, where are we with the dirt study? I own property down the highway, and I'm also adjacent to the federal or BIA land. And I built a home. I've seen homes torn down. I could tear those buildings down with an excavator in a day. I've seen all the buildings in the police department come down in a week. So where are we at getting those taken care of? That's property number one. What I'm most concerned about is the one next to Harvest Foods, 13416 6th Street. The roof is falling in. It's been in deep decline for many years. Recently, that whole awning is just caved in. That's the route that the kids in school take to go to the store. I do know the city's concerned about safety because they put a cool crosswalk right there, at that intersection. I don't know what street that is, which is great. That was a good thing to do, but still that building's wide open. Why hasn't that been addressed? I think that's public property, not city property. Why hasn't that thing been torn down? Where are we with some bump behind it, whether it's through attorneys or I'm not trying to pick on any department, but I'd like to see that thing torn down. There's an apartment complex behind it with children. if the kids don't cross the crosswalk right there and they use the one by Ray's and they go down the street, they're right there by it. That thing's falling down. It's dangerous. Let's get it out of here.
Zach, you got this one?
I do, and just on some of the more historical properties, and we can maybe have staff fill in at the time. Thank you for your question, Mr. Lucas. I'm Zach Rackheide, Community Development Director. So to speak to the Coffee Cup Cafe, that was considered what we call a brownfield or a polluted site a number of years ago. First phase of a study was undertaken, as you were aware, and as you alluded to in your comments there. We are going to be getting our second phase of that in order to make sure that we can take the building down completely. The building is city owned. It's on city owned property. Most recently, and actually at our last city council meeting, we have annexed the property into city limits and for its eventual inclusion into our urban renewal agency, which should help provide a little bit more funding for redevelopment of that property. So we are still actively working through the environmental mediation on the property in order to be able to redevelop that, take it out and make it into a developable site. We are getting interest from commercial developers on that. They see the potential there. So we're working our hardest to get this building down within the accordance of our environmental laws and regulations that we have to do for a building of this site or of this condition.
Zach, let me interrupt you for 2
Yes,
seconds.
please.
So when he says phase one, phase two, you might think of like a subdivision for phase one, phase two, or that's when he's talking this way, he's speaking in this is actually a technical term under the brownfield statutes of Oregon. So if you go again to the state website, oregon.gov/DEQ, you can look at their brownfields and run through that. So brownfields have this phase one, it's a specific type of technical study, it has to be done by certified investigators in the state. We've partnered with a group out of LeGrand for that. They've completed that. We've got the green light and the thumb up from DEQ. Yes, your phase one is confirmed. It's all polluted. It's all bad. And so because of the level of which of the analysis that came back in the phase one, we now move on to phase two. And to your point, Leon loves nothing more than demolition. If I were to set him loose on a dozer, he would knock that thing over today, and he would throw his department a party to do it. But we can't do that because they've essentially determined everything is polluted. It has lead, it has asbestos, the ground is polluted, the walls are polluted, everything's bad. So it has to run through. We have to complete the phase two study, and then we'll move on to the next phase after that is that removal and completion. So to Zach's point, they have grant funds through that in partnership with Eastern Oregon University and this group, this contractor Baker that we're using for it. They run that partnership, and they are essentially the Eastern Oregon brownfield specialists, I suppose. There's not a whole lot on this side of the Cascades. So we're lucky to have them. But yes, it takes a long time. The city purchased that property, I believe, in 2021. And when we brought it to the council at that time, we told them this would be a 10-year project. So we are about halfway through that timeline now. And exactly the point Zach's on, we'll complete phase two, we'll move on to demolition, and then we hope to next week adopt in our urban renewal plan to have that property included, and it would be eligible for urban renewal fundings or tax incremental funding dollars to be able to do a follow-up cleanup work. So
And Dave, I think me and you have talked about that building as well. But one of the things you brought up is even getting a temporary fence construction around it took permitting from DFEQ. I mean, just getting a fence around it. And so it's just a mess.
No. So
yep.
It just seems like this has been, I've been looking at that thing rotting for 50 years.
Yep.
And we're in the last 5 years, you guys have done something about
So-
the fence around it, and I understand there.
Yeah,
It takes time, but I want you to put the foot on the gas pedal, make it, do whatever we can to get that out of here.
I appreciate the
This is
question very,
we see when we come to Umatilla.
without a doubt. Yep, that's exactly, that's
Absolutely. It's
verbatim the conversation that we've all had here and through that process too. And I think everyone in this room is in agreement of what the end goal of that project is going to be. As you can imagine, particularly with hazardous waste and those kinds of things, it's highly restricted through the state level, and it moves at a snail's pace. On a different level, just DEQ, and when they talk budget, if you follow the legislature, DEQ is probably one of the least funded departments of the state, but for virtually every land use application needs DEQ review. So for example, we have our wastewater that the non-contact cooling water that runs through wastewater systems that we partner with the Bureau of Reclamation and the West Extension Irrigation District. We have submitted a permit for our permit amendment that DEQ's own rules say will take no more than 180 days, so 6 months. It has been 21 months. And when we continue to follow up with them, their answer back is it's in the queue. So, I just wanted to express, we share the same or very similar frustrations, and we're working on, I don't know what more I can share on that. I'll move on to the next property, Zach.
My least concern, the other property is more of a safety for our students, our children, anybody that's walking in that area. That thing is a nightmare, and there is no fence around it. So what can we do about that?
Yeah, Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's another property that's been on the topic of my staff recently. So I can't necessarily speak to any actions that we are formally taking, but we are certainly gearing up to see what we can do about that building. That is not city-owned property, so there's going to be a process to work through with addressing the building on that property. But that is definitely one of our imminent actions, is to see what movement we can get on that property.
And not the answer I'm looking for, but knowing that somebody is that, you know, and I get it, it's private property, so you can't get specific, but I want to know that there's action being behind the scenes, that somebody, whether it's the city attorney or in private meetings,
I think
that something is happening.
Yeah, I think what Zach said there was vague enough where he can't say what they're doing, but I think there's action potentially. I think is what probably the best answer is. I'm getting ahead of us. That's all I'm going to leave it at. We're going to leave it vague enough.
Friends come through town, they're like, what is that?
Yep.
What is that thing? I mean, literally, it's falling apart. In the last 30 days, the roof has collapsed on the front of that building. I mean, to me, it's imminent and immediate attention is what needs to be happening.
Yeah, and we have seen the recent self demolition of the building. So and that's what's prompted it to come up higher on our priority list.
Well,
So
I knew it had been like that, but I wanted to bring it to a public
yeah.
forum so everybody knows that it either is or isn't happening.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
That's a reminder, we can all hear, but so the
Yeah.
recording and have it, make sure if you're in the gallery, if you can make sure you have the microphone, please.
Thank you, Dave. Is there any further questions from the citizenry? Yep. Yeah. Any other subject? Go ahead and pass it around. Thank you.
Hi, Mary Cahill, 180 Rio Senda. So a couple of things. Do I have to stand? There are people at home that were thinking that they could interact online, and that's not happening. So I don't know if we're wrong about that. That can't happen where people at home can. But that's whatever you want to do with that. As far as, I'm not one way or the other on the flock cameras, not saying anything there, but just in general, the whole, like Mr. Duffloff, you had said, you know, I can't see what's down the road, and I agree, our police department has things handled, but like Mr. Smith said, when it comes to the flock cameras or other things, I'm not trying to be specific, if it's controversial or could affect us down the road, I do think as a city and council, we should take time to have some oversight, because you had said we don't know what's going to happen 2 years down the road. Like you had said, there's things happening, and what's it going to be down the road? So it would be good to right now be sure that we are doing all we can, that we can have a choice in that down the road. And Mr. Stockdale said, well, if I understood it right, you know, if we have a problem later, we can back out of, again, the flock cameras. I'm just saying in general, but that's not always the case. We can't always back out of whatever the situation is. And like, to go back to the power lines, I know that those are not on our property, nothing we can do about where those are north of us. But if I understood it right, having them be there And I'm just trying to go policy again generally, but having those be there, if I understood it, was that the city would have had a choice to have it go a different direction if, again, correct me if I'm wrong, if the land use wasn't set up the way it had been. So like our hands were tied because then we went to but our council that
Planning Commission.
Planning Commission, thank you. Planning Commission, we even went to them about that, and I felt like they were saying their hands were tied because it was already set in stone plan, if I understood it right. So I'm just saying, in that instance, in the flock cameras, and anything coming up, I just would really like it if we could, when possible, have an oversight and say in them, which I do remember the cameras being talked about, you know, after the shooting and stuff. So I'm like, I'm not saying one way or the other, but I do think we should have the council, you're speaking for us, oversee and have a word and a say in what we're covering.
I agree with you. Council is supposed to be representing the citizens, not representing our opinions. And if we don't have public hearings, if we don't reach out, we're guessing. And
Never mind.
yeah, it's actually working.
Just get closer. Oh, closer.
Oh, how much?
There you go.
Anyway, we need to have public hearings on more things than we have. There are too many things that are left to council to decide. And that's part of our job, but I think we're failing in that job when we don't have public input on important things. And I'm not talking about little day-to-day policies, and that was sort of the inference, but I'm looking to get the citizens involved in major things. That way we're all together, and that's what we want out of Umatilla, is to make us a community that we want to live in.
You got to speak. I'm sorry, you got to speak right into it, Lau. It's the people online, they can't hear you in the recording, so you got to speak directly right into it. I'm sorry, bud. I know.
I'm that one.
That one off again.
I'm your mic guy.
Hey, I'm temporarily on council, so I get this mic. Not actually, I don't feel abused. I'm in favor of having more of these meetings, more than quarterly even. If something comes up, we need to have citizen input. And we've got a few people out tonight, but I was hoping that these chairs would be filled. So you all need to talk to your friends that didn't come, even if they don't agree with you on something. That's all I've got to say at the moment.
Can I chime in?
Yes, go ahead.
If I could address some of your questions, Mary,
Yes.
I'm more than happy to come back to you if I can address some of those. And Zach, if you might be able to help me on some of these as well. So the first, you just started with just interaction and the link online. So if somebody is just on YouTube and they're streaming, their comments are not allowed there. But on the agenda, we have the link for Zoom, which is what's here, and you can participate and do comments on Zoom. We don't have a way to queue vocal or anything like that. You only just typed on YouTube. So if anyone that is listening there online on our screen that's shared, if you go to the city website and you click on agenda, on the agenda at the top is the link that can take you to Zoom, and you can interact, engage with us there. That's how our attorney and we have I think 2 others that were there on Zoom that can participate that way. So hopefully that helps for anyone that's listening that are available now. On the let me see. On the land use, the question, if I understand it correctly, and tell me if I'm paraphrasing this correctly, the question I understood was, what? Okay, the past is what it is. Our hands were sort of tied. What actions are we doing now to help prevent that moving forward? Is that a good summary of that question? Okay, yeah, and so I would say, directly at the moment, the city, we're not making any changes to our comprehensive plan that are impacting that right now. Typically, those types of things are reviewed and will start at like the planning commission level. It can start at the council level, it can start at the staff level, but we haven't done that there. The statewide goals and the county comprehensive plan, those things are updated annually, and we will typically update those. We update when, like I said earlier in the meeting, when they update, we have to incorporate, and when we update, they have to incorporate. We mutually have to adopt. So if there is, like for example, tonight we had the viewing area one brought up. If there's things like that or other specific types of things that we want to make sure, I'm more than happy to volunteer my community development director and myself to come and have you come and meet. Let's create some of these ideas, and we can get to the council, start there, and then you can help give us some direction, some work to give to the planning commission to have them engage and interact with the community. That's the appropriate level, I believe, to do a lot of that work is at that planning commission level. Planning commissioners, for those that are listening, those that are here, those are community members appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the council. They're purely volunteer. They don't necessarily have to have any specific land use background. We provide training, staff provides training, League of Oregon City provides training, and they get information available to them there. And so we'd be able to, and we have budget available to our committees and commissions to be able to seek out and gain more information and opportunities to do that. I'm hearing a lot of comments and things there on that. I have a lot of notes on that here. And so I don't have a general timeline, but I can bring back a general kind of idea or a timeline of what that might look like. And when we can at least start with some of the community members here could come and meet with myself and the community development department, we can kind of get the ball rolling for you on that.
Thanks, Dave. Any further questions from council or people online? Okay, we'll go ahead and join on with the person online. Sorry. Yeah, I'll go to them first, and then we'll do a community one again. So we'll go with, I believe, Heidi. Is that correct? Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
I can't lower my hand, so it's broken. And I'm sorry. Thank you for the updated information on how to figure out the Zoom piece instead of the YouTube piece. But that actually just ties into what I wanted to talk about. And that is just how really difficult it is to find out about stuff like this. I try to avoid social media unless I have to for work things. And so if it weren't for my neighbors, I wouldn't have known about this meeting. It's really hard. I subscribe to the updates from the city, but we didn't get emailed about this or texted about this or any of the things that we've signed up for. I appreciate the efforts that have been made to improve communications. I appreciate the social media presence that you have, but it's still just really, really hard to be positively engaged. And the other thing that's still just really missing is any level of feedback loop. We, as a group that had filed the LUBA complaints about the power line issue, when all of that was moving forward, there were so many procedural errors that were made by the city that were brought up in that issue. We brought those forward, things like people who weren't notified, people who were notified that weren't even landowners. Like there was all these processes that were brought forward. And ultimately it was going to cost us a fortune to just have it remanded back to council. So we thought, well, that's silly. We'll just try to work with council. And so we submitted our concerns. And instead it was just closed with no further communication, no anything. And we didn't even know it was closed until we asked about it. I guess what I'm saying is, what's the process for any level of feedback loop that continues? I watched Mr. Lindstrom come meeting after meeting after meeting for years just to get the poker rules changed. It shouldn't be this hard in a town this size. And I'm just asking for help on what can we do to keep things moving forward, to be partners in this work instead of feeling like we get treated like we're enemies, which I don't think is anyone's intention ever. We all love Umatilla.
Yes, so could you please state your address for the record as well, please?
Sorry, Heidi Sipe, 120 Rio Senda.
Thanks, Esmeralda.
Thanks. Jess, can I have you talk about what we did to get information out about this meeting?
Hi, Jasenia Carrillo, Communications and Outreach Specialist. As far as what we did to get the word out is we did post it on social media, but it also posted on our website. We used the reader board, and the newspaper as well picked it up as a story to feature. One thing I do want to mention, social media is one tool, but it's not the only tool. Depending on what we're trying to communicate with the community, sometimes it is mostly social media. Sometimes it requires mailers. Sometimes it's featured in our newsletter. But the one thing I will say is please, please, please keep having these conversations. And communication works when everybody's involved, not just sometimes here at the city, it can feel like a team of one with multiple moving parts. But it does fall on everybody. I live in this community as well. And the best thing that we can do is word of mouth as well. And so I do apologize if you were not aware of the town hall meeting, but it was posted on our social media website and the newspaper.
Nancy, you have more to add?
Oh, and the reader board, sorry.
Nancy Sandoval, City Recorder for City of Umatilla. I have been here for 12 years. I also wanted to add to that on top of everything that Jasenia does, the City Council does approve a calendar every year, and it's usually at the first meeting in January. This meeting was notified back in January. The agenda went out at the end of the year in December, and then immediately after that, it goes out to the newspaper, and the newspaper publishes all of our meetings for us. This year, looking back on how many meetings we have, and let me see if I can pull that up for you guys. But we had two different ways that we presented that. And if you guys go back to where our agendas and our meeting minutes are, you'll be able to go all the way back till when we switch this. And this was approved at the January 6th council meeting. So I'm going to pull that up for you guys. Here's the agenda packet. Heidi, I'm going to make sure that you can see this as well. I apologize. And everybody else that's on Zoom, give me 1 minute, please.
No worries. Thanks.
And it's taking a while because it was a really long agenda packet. So if you see here at the very number 3 right here, the 26 City Council calendar, and it was presented to council 2 different ways. Here's our normal standard Umatilla. Everything that we do is located right here. And then I also created this that was a little more user-friendly for everybody to segment it out to each of the meetings. So along with all of this information that gets passed out at the beginning of the year, we make sure it goes out to the newspaper. And on top of that, Jasenia does weekly and monthly reminders for all of these meetings.
So I appreciate that. I wanted to, just because they were the specific examples, so I'll try to mention those here. Regarding Mr. Lindstrom, and he's here and he's more than welcome to chime in as well. So though that was brought up here at council, we gave updates to council. I was meeting with Troy often, at least, well, as often as he wanted to meet, or roughly monthly. And we worked through that process together. He worked with our planning department, worked with staff. We brought updates in general, and then we brought proposed language, and then we updated the ordinance on that. A lot of that had to do with a lot of different research, looked at other communities, what they were doing, and so on. And we worked directly with him since he's the only one in the community that was working at social gaming policy, and we haven't really had any of that from anybody else in the community. So it felt most appropriate to work with him directly. He brought it up. When people bring things up here, we try to encourage you to encourage council to encourage you as well to meet with staff, meet with us individually and directly. We can let you know what we can do, what we can't do, what resources we do have or don't have, what timelines might work for us there. And I'm not sure, Troy, if you're more than happy, not to put you on the spot, but I mean, I thought it was a good engagement. I thought it was a good back and forth. I'm not sure if there was any major concerns through that process or not.
If I may, the process works. Takes time. You got to be patient. Was I patient? Okay, the process does work. You got to be patient and consistent. You want a better community? You got to support your community better. You got to be here. You got to be face to face. Make your presence known. While the Zoom asking questions from home is a step in the right direction, as far as the information available, you've got a wonderful, beautiful reader board. I don't know what your restrictions or policy is on posting stuff on that reader board. You also have the one on the fire department. Anyway, thank you, and thank you, council members, for working with me. That's really all I have to say at this point. I might have more to say later.
I appreciate it. The other I wanted to talk about, it was brought up on the LUBA process, and I just want to be very clear. That is not the understanding that the city has, and that's not the way that the LUBA process works. When LUBA is made, it's the Land Use Board of Appeals. Once that appeal is made, it's at that point, LUBA is at the steering wheel and they're running the show. So they'll review the record for its entirety, its correctness, and so on. And we complied with LUBA all along the way. It is true that there may have been a record that wasn't in the exact format that it might have asked for. So LUBA sent information back and said, can you please update this record? Do you have it? And we did. And so all that was updated, all that was provided to the applicant, and all the information was there. LUBA does not send that back to the city council. They make a decision, and when a decision is made, they will direct or demand the local jurisdiction to comply with it or to dismiss or whatever. That LUBA case was withdrawn by the applicant, so it's closed. It's done. There is no further action to be taken at that time. It would be inappropriate for the city to reopen a case that has been closed, that was originally brought to the Planning Commission, appealed to the city council, and a final decision made, and that decision is final. So staff has no authority, no power, and nor does the council have the ability to reopen a case that has been closed. So I just want to set that very, very clear.
Thank you very much. Ms. Wyatt.
Crystal Wyant, 130 Van Buren Drive. One of the things I would like to say about transparency in meetings and such, I've had quite a bit of, I've had some frustration in the fact that I've tried to attend a couple of Parks and Rec meetings and they get canceled because there's not a quorum. I wasn't on any kind of a list, so I didn't get any notice about it. So I'm pounding on the door going, what's going on? Same thing happened when I tried to come to a planning commission meeting. And I kind of said, I'm like going, why is the public not informed? Why aren't the staff members aware that the people aren't going to come? If you're on a committee, and I love seeing all the council people here tonight, you need to show up. We need to have these meetings. I waited over 10 years just to get a safe trail for me to walk on. I've had both hips replaced. My balance isn't good. I wanted a sidewalk. I learned lots of things about the city, and things do not happen easy and they do not happen quickly, but you have to have your voice. You have to try and help people. You have to try and get the ideas flowing. I'm hoping it's not going to take 10 years to get my mom's fish mounted somewhere in this city, but I'm going to keep coming to planning commission meetings. I'm going to keep coming to city council meetings, and I'm going to try to attend Parks and Rec when we have another one.
Thank you. Okay, these two here that have their hands raised are both repeats. Is there anyone new who has a question they'd like to ask?
Mayor, could I have either Esmeralda or Zach sort of respond on Parks and Rec Committee and Planning Commission?
That's fine, yeah.
I can go ahead and take for Parks and Rec. Like Nancy stated, we have the dates adopted for the whole year. My issue is to what Crystal said, they're just not coming. I can't make any action or move forward or ideas forward or projects forward if I don't have the committee members showing up. So some of them don't tell me till halfway through the day that they're not coming or just don't respond at all. I've tried calling. So a couple of them, there are a few openings for our Parks and Rec committee member or committee to accept applications, which is live right now. However, two of them did move out of the area. So unfortunately for us and for the community, we can't move forward and send projects to council for recommendations if we don't have a quorum. So I don't know. I would love to have a whole committee come and provide me more ideas, more work.
Yeah, I think on the planning commission side of things too, we have once a month. There are some months where we did not have any applications that needed to go forward to planning commission. At our last meeting, we did have a couple unexcused absences and excused absences, but yeah, we were looking to do some training, looking to do some policy creation with planning commission. So we're going to move that to August along with a hearing item. We do have one vacancy on planning commission, so please feel free to submit an application online for that. We would love to have more people on the planning commission. We're looking to professionalize some things, revitalize and formalize some of their training for land use decisions, as well as their role as part of the process in creating land use policy and recommendations to the city council on certain items and actions. And so, yeah, as fun as land use policy sounds, we are going to try to make it more fun and legitimate for planning commission. But really it's a good chance. Just the same thing with Parks and Rec Commission, any one of our boards and commissions here at the city. It's a great place to, have your voice heard, be part of a solution. And, the world is created by those that show up. And that's why we have these committees, and they are great little actions and, area department specific areas to help shape and create the community. And staff can do what we can, but we love to hear policy direction from the community, and these are great opportunities for that. So join up on Parks and Rec and Planning Commission, and we'll be happy to have you.
Jonathan Egan, HR Director. Just because we are talking about committees, I'd be amiss if I don't mention that we do have a Library Advisory Committee tomorrow evening here at City Hall. So if you would like to come and participate in our Library Advisory Committee, we'd love to have you.
Great plug. Okay, let's go ahead. There's a new face back there. Go ahead and ask your question. I'm not sure who has the microphone currently.
It's real quick. Denise.
Hold on. No. I have to, sorry. In the corner. No, I'm sorry, Miss Pratt.
Semi-new because I
Yeah, I
emailed
saw you.
last week. So Carrizo Del Rio, 459 Cardinal Place. Just a quick suggestion for communication. I know we have some people that are very tech savvy, others that are not. For example, I like to pick up my phone and, just do a lot of research, look up online, meetings and such. Other people, they're not maybe having the capacity to go get a newspaper. I know the Saturday markets are a thing. I think maybe if you start incorporating in communication about meetings at the end of your Saturday markets or events that are happening, I think that would be another great approach of communication in terms of that. Now, coming with communication and involving the community, I am still semi-new. I've been here for over a year. I'm actually from California, so I was pretty involved out there. But out here, I happen to notice that Hermiston tends to run a lot of community resources, events, like with Good Shepherd and such. I haven't really quite seen much out here in terms of housing, resources, and things like that. I think that would be ideal, especially because we are dealing with maybe not a big, large amount of homelessness out here. But what are we doing in terms of that? How is the community coming together? Is there an outreach program that is offering, mental health services, substance abuse, transitional housing, eventually moving forward to permanent housing, if that is even a thing here? But I definitely think just kind of being more outspoken in your current events, that are happening for the community, just like, hey, FYI, we're having city council meeting this day, this time, feel free to join us. I think it would definitely bring around more people.
Thank you. Any comments, Esmeralda? Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to touch that as new community members move into the city. Our water department utility clerk does a really good job giving welcome packets to everyone who's buying a house and moving into the community. And in there, it states every time we have a council meeting, every advisory board we have, and where to find that information. And thank you for the feedback for the Saturday market. We do hand out stuff. We mostly hand out recreational information, but we will be sure to talk to other departments and see what they would like to have for a handout for our Saturday markets. And also thank you for attending those. But I'll go ahead and let Dave touch on the transitional housing information.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief, and I'm very happy to meet with you more on this. We're pretty proud. So those that are new, this will be great information. For some of you that have been here a while, have been through it with us for the last 4 years or so. So the city, in partnership with Umatilla County, cities of Hermiston, Stanfield, Echo, Irrigant, and Boardman, we operate a facility we call PATH, which is Practical Assistance Through Transitional Housing. We contract with Stepping Stones Alliance to run that facility for us. It's located technically inside city limits, but it has a Hermiston address. We can thank the post office for the way they decide what addresses are assigned to people. But it is both it's a 365-day year operation, and it does emergency sheltering, so single night sheltering if you'd like. We have 30 beds there available for sleep center. It also runs the transitional housing program. We currently have 23 ISUs, or individual shelter units, and those are very small. They're about 6 foot by 8 foot, and it has a roof, and it has heating, and it has an electrical outlet, so you can charge a cell phone or run a CPAP machine or something like that. At the facility, there is the navigation center, and there's full-time staff. They provide navigation services, which include ways to help folks get access to whatever social benefit might be available to them, whether it's unemployment, Medicaid or Medicare, SNAP program benefits, and things like that, as well as access to, we have partnerships with like Workforce Oregon, and community colleges and others to provide vocational and other types of training programs and things like that. The city has even hired some residents of PATH to help us in seasonal events and things like that at parks, which has been a really good partnership that way too. It's been highly successful. It's quite literally award-winning, and we have people from other states, particularly our neighbors, Washington and Idaho, that are coming out. And in fact, I forget what they call themselves in the Tri-Cities. It's a brand new updated group there. They're coming out, and they toured us today because they're looking to quite literally carbon copy what we have and bring that to the Tri-Cities. So we're very happy with that facility. And if Jesselyn, the executive director, was here, she would absolutely invite you and encourage you to come take a tour. We're quite proud of that. On the city council's agenda next week is the second reading of our camping ordinance. We do have some illegal camping hotspots in the community, and we are aware of those. And unfortunately, we don't have on our books at the moment, or we will hopefully by the end of next council meeting, the ability to enforce right to rest laws or time, place, and manner laws that are there. That will allow the state rules that come along with that. If somebody is illegally camping, we have to give them 72 hours to relocate, come into compliance, and we prefer them to go to PATH, which is our regional solution for this opportunity. If we did not have PATH and we had those codes on the book, we would not be allowed to direct them to other places. So because we have a publicly funded and available facility that's available to them, we give the 72-hour notice, and they don't have to go there, but they can't stay here. And so, or at least in that illegal encampment. So that gives us the opportunity and the tools that we need to sort of clean those areas up. So happy to continue any more information on that at another time, or even more here tonight if you have anyone else with other follow-up questions on that.
Bruce, go ahead.
I just.
Oh, hold on, just Mr. McLean, go ahead first. Sorry. Oh no, he's deferring to you. Go ahead.
I just think my follow-up question would be like, what is the outreach process for the current problem right now with homelessness? Like, is there somebody from PATH actively going out to the community, handing out resources, material, pamphlets, things of that nature, trying to encourage the homeless to like get into these services? That's just like my follow-up question.
Yeah, so it's unbelievably extensive, and I don't have Jesselyn here tonight. She can get into the depths, but if you go to steppingstones.org, they have all of those programs and things there, and they're essentially they're receiving grants at all times. They also do additional fundraisers, so it's for general outreach and general education. But they do our PIT, our point in time counts each year when we essentially take a census of our homeless population each year. And then they interact both with their full-time staff, as well as, for lack of a better term, they sort of deputize their residents that are there because they're in their community. These are their friends, sometimes it's their family, and they're able to share and spread the information there. So they have both a all the way kind of grassroots campaign and more of those kind of traditional, for lack of a better term, white collar approaches to this kind of stuff as well. But I would encourage you very much. Again, we're very proud, and Stepping Stones Alliance and the executive director there, Jesselyn, has just done an unbelievably great job, and they'll get you a lot more answers than I can.
Okay, Mr. McLean.
So will our approach for, working a diligent process to get to the camping, I guess, document that we'll be looking at, getting caught up on, different words. The question I have is, will the document we will be voting on, you can't stop people from doing whatever they're going to do. I'm talking at a legal sense. And, the question is, will our policy keep us out of, will potentially keep us out of the current lawsuit and settlement that Pendleton's fighting through?
Because they didn't have Project Path.
Yeah, so Joanna, I'm not sure if you heard the underlying question there. The tail end of that question is, do we feel confident, if I can paraphrase, Counselor, that the policy our ordinance going before council next week is better suited to avoid the pending lawsuit that's happening in Pendleton right now?
Thank you. I apologize. I'm not familiar with the pending lawsuit with Pendleton. So, council, I will get up to speed on that. But I am confident that if your council chooses to adopt the ordinance, it does meet and check all the boxes required by state and federal law to be able to stop illegal encampments.
If I can expound just a little, so some of the differences that we have versus Pendleton, because that might indirectly answer the question for you. So our approach has been PATH, regional solution, an actual campus with regional partners, and it operates 24 hours a day. And the sleep service happens basically dusk to dawn. Pendleton has in their designated what they call sleep centers or resting zones in actually the four corners of the community. And its hours were from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., so 10 hours. So the lawsuit, the question that it's asking is that reasonable? So the state law is relatively broad. It says, does it provide reasonable accommodations for it? So that's going to be the ultimate question in the end, is facilities that have no public transportation access, that only operate for no more than 10 hours a day and have no services available to them other than a porta potties are designed to them. Is that reasonable? So a court will decide that question. Our solution is entirely different. Our solution is this. We have a shuttle service. Kayak is now there. It took us a year plus to get them there, but Kayak makes 3 stops a day, as well as a morning shuttle and an evening shuttle. We work rotations of when the sleep center members, for some months they're shuttled to Umatilla, some months they're shuttled into Hermiston. And right now the advisory committee is looking at options to make that where all participating partners will participate in that shuttle. So that's something that the advisory committee is working on now. So the law comes down into time, place, and manner, and what is reasonable. And so that's the main question. The other is ours, as we're updating now, which is policy that's been adopted after the Supreme Court ruling in conjunction with the ORS. The laws that are on the books of Pendleton that are applied in here are prior to each of those things. So we believe that our law is more current and refreshed, and we believe our solution is significantly better. So the risk is never zero, but I think our risk is significantly less.
Okay. Thank you. All right. More questions here. Okay, go ahead, gentleman here in the white shirt, Mr. Lucas.
Do I need to say my name again? Scott Lucas, 28123 Highway 730. I'm glad we got on the pathway subject. I've been waiting to talk about this for a while. So my wife and I, we take our grandchildren, our pets to the parks all the time here. You can find us 3 to 4 nights a week at one of the parks, mostly Nugent Park because it's closest to us proximity wise. I was pretty excited a couple of years ago when I knew the pathway project was coming. I'm glad you're proud of it. I see a lot of good things about it. I'm seeing some things though, being a frequent flyer to the parks that utilizes our city parks. I use the ones at the Corps of Engineers. I mean, Tessa, you've seen me at parks, you know, Nadine and I are everywhere at the parks. What we noticed, and you touched on the transportation side, Dave, is it equal, you know, based on population? What I'm seeing, I guess I get to my point here. What I'm seeing is there's a lot of people getting on and off the kayak transit transportation system. And so when we go to the parks, what I've seen change in the last 12 to 16 months is I've seen been in the followed people out, you know, that left the bathrooms, drug use, a lot of people sleeping at Nugent Park. I'm concerned, is my dog gonna lick up some fentanyl, or my grandkids gonna, you know, run into something that they shouldn't? I've seen mental crisis at Nugent Park. We didn't see that 16 months ago. So since the pathway project and the kayak transportation, I'm all for it, you know, and help people, but I just feel like taking more of the load based on our population than say Hermiston. I don't know how it gets divvied up, or, you know, who decides how many people come to Umatilla on what days. And again, I'm okay with helping people, but I want my parks to remain safe. My pets, my children, my grandchildren. We have 13 grandchildren too, great. Take them to the parks. We use all the stuff. We utilize the stuff that the city has to offer. But now we're exercising, you know, Nadine carries mace, and exercise my Second Amendment when I go to a park. I didn't do that 12 months ago. Now I do, because we're a little leery. We see, yeah, just recently in Nugent Park, there was massive trash all over the place and 2 guys sleeping. We got a little small Yorkshire, and you know, when he's running around, he goes slow on the leash. But I see him going towards somebody sleeping, you know, I'm hustling over there to get him away. So there's a little bit of fear for us now, just because of the change. And I heard you say, you know, you guys are addressing the camping. I don't know how, you know, 72-hour rule works when somebody just gets off a bus and they go crash down at the park for 10 hours, you know. So just saying, I just wanted to bring that concern up. I don't know what the answer is, to be honest with you. I want to see the city continue to help people, but I want the parks to remain safe. I don't want kids to have to worry about tripping over fentanyl, or dogs, you know, picking it off the ground. I can't tell you how many times Nadine has said to me, you know, don't go over there. I don't want our dog's named Forrest. I don't want him, you know, gobbling up some drugs or something. So not that everybody does that, but we're just more concerned about it now than we ever were. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, Scott, thank you again for the question. It's a great question and great comments. So I'll kind of do that in the reverse order that you mentioned there, which is, again, next week, we have the ordinance coming for the council for that. If council likes, we can throw an emergency clause on that. That doesn't necessarily mean there's dire need of emergency as if the sky is falling. All that means on the technical term, if you'll recall, is that the moment that the gavel strikes as soon as you take action on it, it's effective immediately. So at the moment, it's called camping ordinance or camping regulations, but it actually restricts time, place, and manner of an individual's right to rest in public spaces. Because we cannot regulate that on private property, for example. That's a different section of code. So what that will do, for example, if that passes and whether it's effective immediately or 30 days after the adoption, it would allow our police and code enforcement officers to enforce that ordinance, which during the day on the time, place, and manner, they're allowed to be in the parks. But the time would say during these hours that what's in that proposal ordinance is it's not reasonable to be sleeping during regular hours of the parks. The parks are opened on to dusk and you shouldn't be sleeping on a bench or anything like that during those times in the park. So it would allow police and code enforcement to say, you're welcome to be in the park, you're able to recreate in the park, you're able to relax here in the park, but what you can't be doing is being on a bench or over here or some kind of thing where it creates some sort of whatever you want to call it. It violates that ordinance where they're in violation of that. So it would allow us to be able to enforce that. If it's an illegal encampment is the 72-hour rule. So whether we do that proactively or reactively, we get a complaint, it comes to our attention. The state has said that individual has 72 hours to sort of get their house in order, whatever that might mean, their things, their belongings, and so on. So we issue them that notice, they get 72 hours, and at hour 72 or later, we can come in and move them, gather the things, store those properly. So if they don't have a way to get rid of them, we can get rid of it for them, store it properly, and they can recover that at another time. So it'll do that. The uptick that you saw recently in the parks, and I can't speak to prior than the previous 3 months, had to do with the way that PATH was operating. So prior to April, May, and June, the shuttle was always going to one of two locations in Hermiston from PATH at all times. And so there's a advisory committee that meets for PATH. It's all of the intergovernmental partners for PATH. They asked if the city of Umatilla would work into a rotation, 3 months in Umatilla, 3 months in Hermiston. We had a brief discussion with council on that, and then we brought back to council and said, we're going to see what this looks like. And so that just ended 2 weeks ago. And so during that time, we definitely saw and the shuttle dropped off at the recycling depot. And so during that time, you would see, for lack of a better term, people loitering there or starting there and then walking to places. And that was the idea why that area was located, because it's close to grocery if they need it. It's close to family health if they needed to see a doctor. It's close to parks if they wanted to go rest or recreate legally. At the moment, we don't have the code on the books, but they could be there. But everything is in walking distance relatively easily from the recycling depot. The rotation has now since gone back to Hermiston, so we've seen some of that drop. One of the things that definitely happened, especially in the beginning of that, was exactly what you're talking about. People in pavilions, not being respectful of the restrooms, having illegal activity in the park, drugs or something like that. That's all true. We worked with PATH and the executive director on that, and they can put information out and control those that are using PATH to a certain extent. What we found in this rotation is that not everybody uses PATH. So they have friends and associates. So the PATH members would get dropped off, and then their friends and associates would meet up with them wherever they might be. And it was sort of a mixed bag of who was compliant, who wasn't compliant, and that sort of thing. So we worked with the executive director, we worked with the navigation center staff, and things got, I would say, mildly better, but it's still considered a major issue. So that's part of the issue in the nexus of getting this ordinance in place so that we can address that. It's part of the reason why the advisory committee is saying we need to move this rotation not just 3 months in Umatilla, 3 months in Hermiston, to your point of, is it proportionate as far as the partnership? And what we're trying to say is that it's probably not. When you, if you do it for a 3-month period of time, for example, especially the associates of the PATH members, they learn. They get dropped off every day at 7:45 or 8 o'clock, and they get picked up every night at 6 o'clock, and they can learn these patterns and they can develop other not desirable patterns. And so we try to walk that fine line of providing decent human services, ways in which we can be neighbors, because the data is quite clear. The homeless that are here in Umatilla County, by far, the majority of them are from here. Their family is from here. They grew up here. And there might be some that are passing through or others that come and this is their new home, but the majority of them are from here. But what we also found is that if you create that level of service, but you make it no more convenient, that there's a benefit to that through our sort of social paradigms. And so the idea here is that there are now 6 partners of PATH. If everybody did a 1-month rotation instead, and that level wasn't there. So this is what the advisory committee is working through now. It'll be something that each individual board will be able to be hearing here pretty soon, but they're working through that process.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How did we get on the rotation? Because I know we talked about this, and we all know that we don't have resources available that Hermiston does. We don't have doctor's offices. We don't have, I mean, we do, but we don't. We don't have things readily available. We don't have a McDonald's. We don't have a Taco Bell. We don't have those things that are available. I think it's very disheartening to think that our community, not that, I mean, if we had more to do for them, that would be a lot easier. Right? But we don't have a Walmart. We don't have those types of things. So I think we really need to set pressure back on them to say, hey, how about, this is a weird thought, how about we ask them where they want to go instead of us just arbitrarily saying, oh, you're going to Umatilla this month or you're going to Hermiston this month. And I don't think for our citizens, that's the best choice.
Yeah, so we did ask, and you're correct. Not all, but the majority of them want to be in Hermiston. What they found, or what they sort of self-reported on Stepping Stones or PATH's own survey, or talking with them, is that the majority of them don't use any of those services. So they might need to step in the grocery store to buy some odd and end or a snack or whatever. But the majority are just in the community throughout the day. They might stop somewhere to eat, but they're not using health services very often. They're not going to restaurants very often, that sort of thing. So their communication to Stepping Stones anyway was that it didn't really matter where they went. And so what we were trying to do there was to sort of share that shuttle transportation. We're all partners. We're all equal partners in this program. And so up until that point, Hermiston had done it for 18 consecutive months. So we were looking at what that would look like for us. And again, it's back in Hermiston, and we have a lot of lessons learned. And Maricela and I attend that meeting each month. I chair that committee, and I can attest to you that I brought it to them last month, and it's on our agenda in 2 weeks from now, specifically to either rotate it through or to come up with other solutions. So that advisory committee is working through that right now.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
As far as the PATH goes and where they're dropped off and when they're dropped off in the mornings, it's right when the kids are headed to school. And we've got a lot of kids who walk from that area, and they have to walk right through that exact space in order to get to school. So how are we ensuring that the kids are safe during that time?
Yeah, it's been brought up to PATH many times, to Stepping Stones, that exact concern. And their answer to us is they have 3 full-time employees. Everyone else is run on volunteers, and they have to have their sleep center members need to be out in the morning so they can be off so that their volunteers can get out and off to work. They don't have other people available. The only people that are there during the day are those that live there, those that are in the transitional housing program. Anyone has access to the navigation center at any time, but the sleep center members, as part of their rules or requirement for it, is they have to either take kayak in or out or take the shuttle in or out. And that was just the time that worked for them. We explained to them that exactly that concern. We've asked what it would look like, changes into the security protocols and other things. And I don't believe that if and when the rotation works through Umatilla again, I don't believe it's going to be that same time. It would be at least an hour later after kids and everybody are back through school. That's what we're working towards, at least right now. But again, we're working through that. We don't have an update on all of that now. Okay. John, you had a comment?
Yeah, just a small part of this conversation. In this current fiscal year budget, council, you also approved an additional full-time employee as another code enforcement officer to help, I'm assuming, address part of this issue as well. So from a staffing standpoint as well, we are working on additional staff on the books to help address this in another facet.
Great. Yep. Another 35 minutes. Okay. Any further questions from citizens at this point? Ms. Pratt, Mr. Lucas, could you get the microphone over to her? To Ms. Pratt. Thank you.
Denise Pratt, 148 Rio Senda. I just wanted to revisit the communication issue. And I know you guys have done a lot of things for that, but I think it being brought up so many times by so many people. I was here at that city council meeting when that date was decided, and I thought, oh, it's in the future. I'll remember. And thank goodness, Mary, our neighborhood communication person, reminded us all. So otherwise I would have forgotten about it. So I guess the thing I'm trying to bring up is there's some missing. I don't have the answer, but what has been done so far is not enough. I told as word of mouth, I told as many of my neighbors as I could think of. And they didn't come, but that's beside the point. What else can be done, I guess, is my question. And I know that's not a simple answer, and maybe it's going to take, what I have learned is that people can't create in a vacuum, meaning just one person go, I can't think of that idea. You create in a group of people. So maybe a group of people can get together and go, what else can be done to communicate? I don't drive through downtown Umatilla. I live on the outskirts. So I don't see the reader board. Unless I went, if there was a spot maybe on the website, I don't know if with the new website, if there's like a banner that says what's happening now that's easy to find. But I don't do Facebook anymore either, only when I have to. So I'd like there to be another way other than Facebook to get out communication.
Here's the calendar on the city website here.
Yeah.
Mailer, but also mailers cost money too.
Yeah.
We've got that communication system that has not been used at all. I know it was used maybe once to throw out the Rock the Locks information. I know it's an emergency situation, but maybe there's another avenue like that we could just do those quick things.
Yeah, I agree. You and I talked about that the other night, about how do I reach your phone? How do I get on people's radar to get that information out? And it is difficult. I don't know about you, but if I got a text on my phone for an emergency situation, if I get one more freaking text on my phone that's non-emergent, I'll be like, holy crap. But at the end of the day, I agree. I wish that we could figure out a better way other than flying airplanes around with a big old tail behind it. I don't know.
Darren, that's a novel idea, Darren.
Hey, let's do it.
Let's do it.
We'll create job too.
Yeah, just one.
Dave, do you have any pilot's license?
I'll put you in a hot air balloon. I can do something like that. I mean, I'm not here for that.
Negative.
Plenty of hot air.
I have a question though. Do you still have the mailers for like water, sewer, and garbage? Do those still go out? I do all mine online, so I wasn't sure, but do those still go out?
For the people that are not signed up for paperless billing, yes.
I know
We
they
have
use-
a postcard. and we do put messages, but we're limited with our software on how many characters we can put. So usually what we do is we try to look ahead the next month and see what do we have space to highlight. On this last one, we talked about utility rate changes because that's what they're going to see next.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking because a lot of people who still get those don't do digital most of the time. So that at least get to the people who don't do Facebook or don't do, you know, all that. If they could somehow put some of the important stuff like that on those.
We have also used QR codes that we've put on the back of the utility mailers for certain events or different information. We've been actually talking about this quite a bit internally because a lot of times it's the people who aren't super tech savvy that aren't getting the communication, and those people may not know how to use a QR code. So our library has put on several like come get tech help events and sessions. And so I would encourage people to take advantage of those. Jess and Nancy, as part of our Citizen Governance Academy, are brainstorming a session that we can do specific to communication and how to get city information in whatever way our residents want it. So it is definitely something in our department that we continue to talk about on a daily basis. And it is challenging because mailers are extremely cost prohibitive. When we did our newsletter in mail version several years back, we were spending almost $3,000 a quarter, and it would be so frustrating to show up at the post office and see 90% of them in the garbage can. And so, you know, we're talking about for the people who don't want it, perhaps we start printing X amount of copies to be available at City Hall and try to train people that you can get them at City Hall on certain months. So we're definitely open to ideas. It's just no matter what we do, there always will be, you know, be a gap, but we're working continuously on that.
I think we have somebody online.
Yeah, did you have any comments on that? Any further?
Just lastly, so our website's there. We have the calendar. Everything's on that main calendar. Some of the feedback we had heard in previous months was everything's sort of disjointed. Everything's now under a single calendar. You can click on any specific day. We sort of highlight the next upcoming week or so. You can see that there. We also have a subscription. You can subscribe and we can email you our newsletters, agendas, things like that can come out with you. There's a way to sign up for that also on our website. And then of course here at the calendar, we can specifically look at either events or meetings, agendas, minutes, those kinds of things are all available online. But we can send you something direct. If you hit for the subscription, we can send those types of things to you in our email as well.
So just, and it might be a training thing. I'm not sure, but we do have the main calendar set up that if you click on this portion right here, it pops up everything and it gives you the next several days. It usually allows up to 6 spaces. And then if you hit on meetings, all the meetings will be here. So you have the town hall is listed on there, urban renewal. These are miscellaneous, but we have city council path is up there. And then if you hit on events, watercolor, Waterpalooza, the town hall is also on here. So there are several ways that it is listed on our city calendar, and it's listed in all 3 spots in this case. And then just to further, if you click on agendas and minutes again, it'll pop up something very similar, and you can see right here where all of our boards and commissions are listed. It's also listed right here. Today's meeting is listed here and upcoming meetings. And any recent recordings that we have are also available here. If you also needed to search something, you can click on this search button right here, and you can put a keyword on here. I'm going to do calendar because that was the issue, and hit search, and it populates it right here. So you have calendar, agenda bill, calendar, and this will tell you if I click on this, it'll populate the calendar for you. So there are multiple ways to do research, and our website, as you guys know, it took me several months to get this also taken care of, and you can click on here, Town Hall. Oops. And it will also pull it up right here. So here it is on news and updates. It was posted on July 11th, 2026 that it was occurring.
And I think we had one comment while you were scrolling through here on, I believe, Zoom. I'm not sure if it's relevant to the current topic or
Let
not.
me stop sharing here. There we go. And you have Lauren on there.
There's one comment there. There's also a chat one, I believe, too. I just want to make sure it's not if it's on the relevant topic or not. So I'm going to sign up for email updates if I didn't get here for this. Okay. So it says to clarify the system that I was referring to, I'm signed up for the email updates and I don't get any ones for this. It's not important for the group. I just wanted to make sure I saw this. Okay. So yeah. Great. Okay. Moving on now to Ms. Britt, you have a comment.
Yeah, hi, my name is Lauren Britt. My address is 2796 High Desert Loop. And going on with that, I also think just a recommendation for that is even just like some sort of like sign up for a text message, or even with your utility bills, getting something in the mail for these upcoming meetings. But I did want to reach back out to the parks. I'm a mother of a 2-year-old and we go out to Nugent Park very frequently. And within the last 3 months, we have been going out there, and there has been several homeless people sleeping, or people taking over the bathrooms, almost using the sink as showers, and lots of garbage. And it doesn't seem like it's necessarily being kept up. And I'm just reaching out to see, like, what are we doing to make sure that we're keeping our children safe when going to these parks, and making sure that they're upkept the way they need to be.
Thank you. Dave, or do you want this or
Yeah,
Esmeralda?
Chief.
Or Chief, yeah.
Yes, I'm just as frustrated. I hear all the comments. Yes, we patrol the area as much as we possibly can. We can't be everywhere all the time. We do have calls for service. And I know that Public Works goes out almost daily to clean the restrooms. So
Yeah, and I think Ms. Britt as well. I think kind of we're in a waiting pad right now because police can't really take action. Staff really can't take action until we get we pass our ordinance. And so once that happens, we'll definitely loop back and hopefully we see an improvement in that. And then, if it doesn't improve in the next 2 months, please definitely continue to reach out and we can hopefully get some resolutions to that. But I definitely think the ordinance is going to be the biggest part of that to give Chief some teeth to be able to combat this. Esmeralda, do you have anything you want to add?
Obviously, we can't do anything about people just loitering in the park at this moment. However, those who have paid for a reservation for the park use at that beautiful Nugent Park shelter, our staff does take reservations in. We notify Public Works and we notify the police department every Monday for any reservations happening that week. So they do their patrol. If it's a Saturday, they are aware that space has been reserved, so they will go kick them out or tell them that has been paid for. Public Works does work Saturday and Sunday as well to prep the park and the area and pick up the garbage, clean the bathrooms, kick people out of the bathrooms. So we do try to do our best to mitigate those issues, especially when there is a reservation. However, I can't kick them out of Lower Park, Nugent Park, but I just wanted to we do have some sort of process to help keep some people safe in their reservations, I
Thank
guess.
you. Okay. Any questions now from the public at this time? Going once. No, Mr. Lindbergh, go ahead.
Troy's got one.
Roy Lindstrom, 401 6th Street. I have to go. I want to thank you, Mayor Sipe, council members, staff, first responders. Town meetings, I believe, are a wonderful thing. Hopefully you schedule more. And like I said before, you want a better community, support your community better. I have to go. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Troy.
Yeah, well said. Okay. Anyone else who'd like to make a comment? Yeah.
Yes.
Mary Cahill,
Yeah.
Don't drop Lyle's mic.
180 Rio Senda. I just hadn't heard any updates on that. I don't know what it's called, the soccer park down by the marina. Did we lose? Is that? No. What's the name of the soccer park? Did we lose that, or where are we at? Oh, Third Street. Thank you.
Soccer field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. The city operate parks that we both lease and had a license from the Army Corps of Engineers. So the Marina and RV Park is on a long-term 20 and 25-year lease. The Third Street Soccer Park was on a license. The city has renewed that and the license can only be renewed in 5-year increments, and it has been renewed every 5 years for at least the last 25 years, probably longer than that. We were notified a little more than a year ago that they would not be renewing our lease, which was expired March 31st of this year. Mainly because the license that the city had on that property on file at all times was for a utility access easement. Our sewer runs through that property. There's a couple manholes there. Somewhere in the 90s, I think, is when that park was built, and there's no permits. There's no record. There's
No.
the early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Okay, early 2000s. It's before.
It wasn't there. It was 2008.
Yeah, so probably 20 years.
It was there before 2012, was Melissa saying when she started.
Yeah, before 2012, I'd say 2008, 2009.
Yeah, 8 or 9.
So
regardless, it's been 20.
I'll be real brief.
Years.
The short version is that community members said we need a soccer park. We didn't have anything available, and community members came together and made a soccer park. So the sort of get her done mentality. Good job. It's awesome. It's not compliant with the federal law. And so when the Army Corps of Engineers was out 2 years ago, and they do an annual inspection of our lease properties, which includes the marina, portions of Nugent Park. That inspector kind of looked over there and said, when did that park get here? And we don't inspect that. Why don't we inspect that? We said, oh, we have a license when we're operating it. So very diligent real estate technician at the Army Corps of Engineers went back and opened up the file. And the only thing that's on file there is for sewer. So that said, they provided us notice that said, we will not be renewing your license for the recreational features you have on the site, which includes park, the restroom, the parking lot that's there. There is a permit for the trail that runs in front. That was a partnership with the county and the Confederated Tribes. So we asked if there was any way that we could possibly get that renewed for 5 more years so we can work out alternative field locations, particularly looking at Hash Park Sports Complex and expansion there as the most likely best option for that. They said no. But they also said, we will not be enforcing this unenforcement. So what that means is we still have insurance that covers our liabilities and anything that might occur at that park. It's still listed in our insurance, and we're operating it, but we do not have an active license release for that park. So we had a decision that could make on, do we mitigate our risk and liabilities? Can we insure it? Yes, we can. Oregon legislature updated and their recreational immunity liabilities in each of the last 2 legislative sessions. We believe are well covered under recreational immunity. Under risk and liabilities we're covered. And at the moment, for just very full clarity, they're saying we're not enforcing that right now. So what we're working on in the meantime is the council adopted last year the Hash Park Sports Complex Master Plan. And we have in the urban renewal plan that's going before council next week is that facility will be eligible for urban renewal funds. And that park will include 4 diamond fields, baseball, softball, and as well as 2 of those fields will have removable fences and then other major areas for rectangle fields. So soccer, football, lacrosse, those kinds of things. We'll be able, instead of going from 1 field, we'll end up having a minimum of 3 rectangle fields available for us out there with additional parking and things like that. So at the moment, we're working with our engineers. To take the adopted master plan and turn that into design and engineered plans. That's what was highlighted in the adopted budget and is in our budget for this year to get that work done this current fiscal year. And then we'll be going to the budget committee at the beginning of next year with suggestions or approvals to try to get funding to construct that facility.
Okay. Is there any further questions from citizenry? Going once, going twice, checking online, going 3 times. Okay, that's all we have this evening. Thank you very much, everyone, for your comments. I'll go ahead and move on now to the mayor's message, and then we'll look at moving on. I just want to say thank you again for staff for coming this evening. Thank you for being available to answer any questions and being able to assist. Dave answered most of the questions. I appreciate it, Dave. Thank you. With that, I just want to say thank you everyone for attending this evening, and we look forward to doing more of these and continuing to remain transparent. Thank you for coming with your questions and concerns, and keep sending them in and keep showing up. And we definitely appreciate you guys for coming out this evening. We'll go ahead and start with council information now. We'll go down with Mrs. Pankratz. Yeah.
I guess I just want to say thank you for everybody coming out tonight. As somebody new on the council, this was a good way for me to gather information as well and to see what it is that everybody is concerned about and things like that in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. LaFleur?
Yeah, before we go, can you do me a favor and have all your staff introduce themselves, please, and where they're from? I'm sorry, they've been here all night and you guys have been patient. I sure appreciate everybody. I really do.
Kennedy and work your way down.
Where they're like where they were born, or
See, that's God getting mad at you
Yeah.
for smiting me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, start it off right there. That's you.
there you go.
I'm Luke Romero. I'm the Park and Recreation Manager. And I'm from Umatilla.
There you go. What department you're from, silly? I know.
Keith Kennedy, Lieutenant with the Police Department.
John Capers, Detective Sergeant with the Police Department.
Ivan Dyke, Sergeant with Police Department. I'm not standing.
Might not look like I'm standing next to him, but I am. Kylie Baker, I've been at UPD for 14 years. I work in the office. I'm a dispatcher. I work in records and evidence.
Tisa Coffey, Code Enforcement Officer, 22 years.
Megan Hosick, I'm at Big River Golf Course. I'm the golf course administrative supervisor.
I'm Noe Rodriguez. I'm also at Big River Golf Course. I'm the superintendent.
Bowman, I'm with Parks and Rec.
Salud Campos, Senior Office Clerk at the Marina.
Okay, Jasenia Carrillo, Communications and Outreach Specialist. I have the privilege of living and working here for Umatilla since 2020, well, living here 2022 and working for the city since 2023. But hey, I'm from Stanfield, so there's, I don't know if I could say go Vikings comfortably.
Of course you can.
But the one thing I want to add really quickly is that please feel free to come have a conversation with me. I come from a teaching background, and I do agree that the best ideas come from all of us. So please feel free to stop by. If you need a business card, happy to give you one.
Joel Escamilla, Senior Accountant.
Carrie Shulhanek, Administrative Services Manager.
Esmeralda Purchase, Parks and Recreation Director. I've been here for about 9 years this month, and I also live here in Umatilla.
I'm Zach Rackhi, Community Development Director. I was born and just kidding.
Maricela Morales, Community Development Manager. Go Vikings.
Oh. These new chairs are harder than I thought they.
Yes, they are.
Oh. I broke my tailbone a couple of weeks ago, so. I'm Ron Bridge. I'm the Chief of Police.
I'm Carrie Holmes. I'm a Parks and Recreation Coordinator.
Jonathan Egan, HR Director.
Melissa Ince, Assistant City Manager and Finance Director.
And Dave Stockdale, city manager. You might notice John's using HR director, no longer manager. We now have a new department in the city, the HR department. We have a new department director. John's been promoted, so congratulations to John.
Congratulations.
Nancy Sandoval, city recorder, been here for 12 years, and I'm gonna go ahead and say go Vikings, but only because they're not in the same class as Stanfield. Go Tigers.
Well, thank you. I sure appreciate you guys. I remember back in the day, we could have put all of the staff in here, and we have just a quarter of us here now. So just the growth in the last 20 some years that I've been here has been tremendous, and growth comes growing pains. And I completely agree. I think we need to have more of these. And just like everybody else, I'm sure there was some angst about coming in today, that there was going to be some pressure, some screaming, some yelling, some disagreements. We can disagree, and that's okay. We have a difference of opinion. That's just how it is. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't do anything in the world for anybody in this room. So that has nothing to do with it. So as we look around, this is our community. This is Umatilla. So we want to make it better. And part of being better is to be giving people grace and understanding everybody has different visions. So allow them to have their vision, and also you can keep yours, and that's perfectly fine. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. You guys appreciate it.
Councilmember Ringgold.
I'm gonna make this short and sweet because he just took up all my time. You offered it. No, I appreciate everybody coming and introducing who you are, because there's a few that not everybody knows who they are and stuff. And I appreciate seeing all the faces out here. It's really nice. I wish the council meetings would be this full. It'd be super nice to have everybody's input. So, but everybody have a great night. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Smith.
I just appreciate the crowd here. I remember 20 years ago when I was first on city council, we could not have paid people to get this many people in chairs. So I really love this. The city is on the move. We have some problems, but we have collectively done a lot, especially in the last 10 years, the last 8 years that David's been with us.
Mr. McMillan.
I'm done.
First of all, I want to say that thanks to everyone's that has been answering my questions. I do have some issues with this flock camera thing. I'm not going to deny it. I'm stress testing it, though. I need to get some answers, and we're going to work through it. I hope one way or the other. I would like to have a little more say in the whole thing, but I mean, that's something maybe we can work down the road. But I want you guys to know that I'm not challenging anyone's integrity. I love our PD. I love our city, and I'm not challenging your guys' love for the city either. So I think you guys are doing a great job. I just have issues with that particular piece of equipment. I just want to know if it's right or not for the people in town. You know what I mean? And I've heard a lot of complaints from it, and I just want to be sure it's the right thing, and it's the right thing for our future generations. Because sometimes once you take the toothpaste out of the tube, you can't put it back in. So anyway, that's all. I got no hard feelings, and I do love you still, Darren.
I love you too, Dennis. Of course I do.
Thank you. Thank you. And
All right.
I'll just pass it to Bruce here before I get
Mr. McLean, go ahead.
because I cry easily.
Well, thanks for the clue. Yeah.
No.
Make you cry?
Okay, no, I don't. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I mean, last on the list, it's nice that you're flipping it, because usually I'm down here and I get to talk about the weather and safety. It's the only new thing. Thanks everybody for being here. Citizens, staff that are citizens. Thank everybody. This has really been enjoyable. We've hit some difficult subjects. We'll be back doing this more. We'll find other ones that we get to work through. It's been said before, we'll work through this as a community. Umatilla is a unique place. It's got a lot of good things going on, and there's some really wonderful people here. We had just to run through this for everybody, we had a really difficult choice filling spot number 1. We had 3 really wonderful candidates for filling that position temporarily. So, we are drawing great people that are showing, a huge amount of interest and willingness to devote the time needed to run this. Thank you for mentioning Saturday market. It's kind of become one of my things. Great time. It is great to see people come together. I'm beginning to think that there are unlimited opportunities for us to take more advantage of that event. With that, I'll go back to my usual standby. Watch out for the other, the over 105-degree weather that's coming. Finally in my book. It's like, I'm sick and tired of it already, but remember sunscreen and water.
You didn't say have your cat spayed or neutered
Yeah.
or pets.
All right, on that note. Looking for
Mayor,
motion
I'd
to
like to
adjourn.
make a motion. We cancel and adjourn the meeting. I mean,
Okay, it's
canceled, but
yeah.
canceled.
Motion's in first and second to adjourn this meeting. Can we get a roll call this time? File.
Counselor Pancratz.
Aye.
Counselor Duffloff.
Aye.
Counselor Katie McMillan.
Aye.
Counselor Smith.
Aye.
Counselor Dennis McMillan.
Aye.
Counselor McLean.
Aye.
Guys, have this meeting adjourned. Go home. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.